We are back, and we got the full crew here. Caesar, Cody, Nick, myself. It's great to be here. We had our little special episode there last week, Four Nations, but NHL is back. Panthers hockey is back. And guys, do we have a lot of Panther news here?
Yep, coming out of Four Nations here. I mean, everyone knows Matthew Tkachuk was been banged up this entire Four Nations. Initially, the injury happened against the first game against Canada. Looks like something lower body. I think all of us can agree it's most likely something with his groin, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, great point there, Cody. It's the game didn't. Sorry about that, guys. Did you guys hear anything?
Yeah, I heard it, but we'll continue.
We're getting some reverb. It's live. It's live.
But no, we'll find out more, I guess, Tuesday, right? Unless we find out something tomorrow.
Probably Monday, if I had to guess.
I can't stand hockey injuries. I really can't. Like,
I think they're like the only sport which don't really disclose much.
Right. I think they already know what's going on. I think there is we'll get into it later as we discuss it, but there are some protocols they do have to follow.
Right.
Yeah. Like, because for instance, like the Florida Panthers head equipment guy was the head equipment guy for Team USA during the Four Nations. So there is probably some sort of intel going on here with a connection when you have that kind of connection with the Panthers inside of like the Four Nations that close to it. I would be 1,000% shocked if the equipment guy and the doctors were not already talking about it. But
yeah, I think they knew right away. Also, Bill Zito is the assistant GM Team USA, so they had to have. He had to have known. He already knew.
I was going to say he's ahead of the game, so it's all up to them disclosing it to the public now, if they want to even disclose or how much they want to disclose.
Well, we've had a lot of questionable things. What is the Minnesota Wild medical staff is taking some bullets here after Four Nations, so we wonder how Panthers medical staff is going to deal with this and handle this, and what they heard, what they found out, what they heard through Four Nations. Obviously, they've had enough time now to run the tests and evaluations to know what's going on.
They have an idea here, but I guess they're hoping to see if the injury heals any, or maybe they get a different prognosis. I have no idea. But like I said, I would be shocked if we saw Matthew Tkachuk play before the trade deadline. But with that, all things considered, the French Canadian outlet TV, I think it's like TVA Sports or something.
Yeah.
Their head guy said over that Tkachuk was going to be done for the rest of the year. I'm assuming he means regular season. I'm not sure if he means regular season and playoffs because, once again, I do not speak French.
And what that's putting everyone in a panic as we are live here right now. Does that mean does that mean playoffs?
And there have been rumors going around prior to that comment. Yeah. And Elliot Friedman said tonight on Saturday Night Headlines on Sportsnet said that there is concern over Matthew Tkachuk's injury. Obviously, that doesn't tell us much. More confirms the whispers we've been hearing about a more long-term issue when it comes to this injury. And obviously, there have been discussions of LTIR, all this other stuff, but I don't know where we want to take this conversation. But there's the tweet from Empty Netters, which came around last night at around 9:30, and that was really the first public confirmation outside of the comments by Brady Tkachuk right after the post game after Team USA unfortunately lost to Canada. But
those guys were in attendance in Montreal and I'm guessing in Boston too.
Right. Yeah. So Kirby, we talked last night about this. I believe you said there's around a 20-30% chance about an LTIR.
Because of how we operate.
Because of how we operate. But, and Cody, Caesar, how much does this change the trade deadline for the Florida Panthers?
Oh, it's significant. Cody, go ahead.
It changes a lot because number one, now you don't have to give up many assets to go get a guy because the team doesn't have to retain anymore.
Right.
So you don't have to add that retainment asset to the trade. So now that changes a little bit.
But we were gonna. I know what you're saying, Cody, but we were gonna have money regardless coming up to the
We
trade
would
deadline.
have $3 million.
$3.5 million. It would have been enough to add like
One guy.
one, maybe two, if you were going to move a Gadjevich or a Boakfist. We were talking about 1.4 with Gadjevich.
Boakfist is gone, big dog. He's already gone.
but we were having that conversation a couple weeks ago. Move Boakfist $700,000 there. Move Gadjevich $700,000 here.
One of those that opens up more.
We don't need to have that conversation anymore. We're going to have $13 million in cap space.
And Kirby, you said
you need to have that conversation.
But Kirby, you said
not having Gadjevich.
You said there was a 25-30% chance he's at LTIR?
He said that last night. I think
because of how we operate. We're not.
I'm closer to 45-50.
We're not Vegas.
I'm with Cody here.
No, because remember the 23 deadline, we did it with Ekblad. Right before the deadline, we put him on LTIR. That's how we got Giroux. That's how we got Sherrod.
Yeah.
And like all those guys. So this isn't the first time Zito's going to be around this rodeo.
You know this, Cody, when we talked, good point. You know this when we talked to Nick. He's talking LTR, so we get in the Rantanens and Seth Jones. I don't know if it's going.
I don't know if it's going to be that high because we don't have that many assets.
Wishful thinking, but still.
But that's where my answer was kind of to you there.
But it's nice to have the flexibility because now, obviously, like Cody said, I mean, we were talking about like names like Yogi Harzhu and some other names.
I think Yogi Harzhu's name should still be in the mix.
He should, but it's not the main guy anymore. Now you're able to go get more guys, or maybe even get a higher quality guy. Like you said.
But when people ask me on the post-game show, Kirby, do you think it's those type of names? And you guys said you didn't like my answer, Tom. Like, I don't know. Because Zito, he hasn't done it, Cody, through necessarily the trade route. Yeah, you can look at Drew and Sherrod to a degree, but like the guys that he's brought in, the Duclairs and Verhaeghes, where he's done it is that big trade with Tkachuk, and everyone goes back to that. I don't know at the deadline to expect something like that.
And here's the thing, and I asked the viewer this, and I would tell the Spaces, if I was on Spaces, I would say this. Name me the last team who made the biggest deal at the deadline to win the cup. Who was it?
It doesn't happen.
Because it doesn't happen. Because last year, let's see, who made the bigger deals last
Detroit
year?
Red Wings 2002?
Like, who were the biggest guys?
Like, yeah, Gensel in Carolina. You had Hannafin and Vegas went all out.
First round exit, second round exit.
But then you take a look at New York the year prior. The first run to the Cup in the Maurice's first year.
Yeah,
they
Tarasenko,
Kane, Mikkola,
out in the first round.
Right. And
then
the year before that was us.
And don't forget Boston, too, that first Cup run.
Yes.
Bertuzzi and
Hathaway, Orlov.
That's what I'm thinking of. And out in the first round. And we know from experience. Remember, we were Giroux, Sherratt. No, I'm blanking on I think we brought in another piece, but I don't remember. Oh, Robert Hagg.
Yeah, piece.
That was more the Ekblad depth piece. We had Petteri Lindbaum, if anybody remembers him. I don't think
we had him, Lucas Carlson, and Robert Hagg, but that's just, and we were out in the second round. So,
but there is obviously you see the I don't know how to pronounce his name, Renaud Lavoie or something. TVA Sports. Obviously, this is in French.
Let's take a look at what they have to say.
I think it's in French, but
in French, it might be in French.
Hit settings. See if there are English captions.
Let's see if there's English captions.
Yeah,
let's take a look.
All right,
just play it. Just play it, and let's see.
So this was the information.
Where's Lex when you need her? Like,
right. You guys hear it?
I can hear it. I can't understand it.
Okay, so disregard that, guys. I'll find another one. So
yeah, I mean, and there is obviously we don't speak French, but Kirby's saying like there's a panic going around. What is out for the season?
Okay, so here we go. In retrospect, this is what he's basically says that Matthew Tkachuk is hurt, waiting to test right now to confirm officially. However, there is a possibility that the injury sustained at Four Nations could be one that puts him out for the rest of the season.
What is the rest of the season?
Rest of the season, like when I hear rest of the season, I'm thinking regular season.
That's what I'm thinking.
So if he's good for game one of playoffs, there shouldn't be any panic.
Talking to our resident doctor on our post-game show, he was talking about it's a 6 to 8 week window. So to me, that's not playoffs. If he's correct on that,
That's
I've been talking to his medical field.
that's actually right at playoffs.
Yeah. So that 7 week thing there is when it starts.
A lot of timeline that has been thrown out there is for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. Playoffs do start about a little over 7 weeks.
I heard 6 to 8, but that's
if it's anything with 6 weeks, I think should be an LTIR. I really do.
If it's 4 to 6 and the playoffs in 7, I mean you're cutting it close. And and all the reports, I don't know if it is a groin or not, if that's confirmed, but those are tricky injuries right there, especially soft tissue.
Any soft tissue, and
any soft tissue. We talked about it last night, saying like you go take a look at football players. You take a look at, did you mention Anthony Davis?
Yeah,
what a bad comparison.
I don't know. I don't watch basketball.
That dude could stub his toe. He's out 2 to 3 weeks.
We're not talking who's injury prone, but in general,
it's just in general. Like you could see,
you're talking like pull, strain, and then you're talking
like a hamstring or a groin turns from like a 1 to 2 week thing, and then it lingers on the whole season, right? And they're never.
People that I talk to, they're very highly, ruling out that it's a rupture. He wouldn't have been able to come back for the championship.
He wouldn't have been able to walk if it was a rupture.
So rupture, you can take that out. So it gets into the strain area, which can be a partial, I don't know, like tear, ligament kind of damage there. I don't know if that's through surgery, and if it is,
could
but it does like raise the question, like where do we go from here? Like what do the Panthers go from here?
Because here's the thing, they're in a very interesting situation, and I think we're good on the tweet for now.
Yeah.
So they're just in a very interesting situation now because we've all been talking about the trade deadline because it is in 2 weeks. The lack of assets that they've had, or like really, because remember we don't have a pick in the first 3-4 rounds this year. Because I think the third we gave up was to for like the Tarasenko thing because we won the cup or whatever, and we shouldn't have any regrets about those picks or anything. But now you're in an interesting situation because now you don't have to give up many assets to go get as much assets to get a guy because you don't have to add the retainment asset. You don't have to add like the extra 3rd round pick or 4th round pick to get a team to retain salary. But in my opinion, Henry Jokiharju should be at the top of the list. He should be in the fold for it no matter what. Just because.
Seth Jones is going a little. Yeah, I just put that in there. Seth Jones is a higher step up, and then when you get into these guys that are wingers and star wingers like Rantanen, that's the other level up from there.
I think
where are we playing here? Like what? Where we
here's the thing. I think, and I agree with both you and Matthew. There's Matthew's comment. You go and get Jokiharju, get another forward, and call it a day. Nothing needs to change. You can change the caliber you get, but not the position. I agree with that. But
I hate the nothing needs to change sentence.
But
that's what was said last year. Me and Cody pushed back.
I hate that part.
And I don't know if he knows the approach to the deadline. Nothing needs to change in that, or I don't know what he means by that.
Well, you're starting to hear from some people now, and I don't know. It's going back in time here, Cody.
Because
last year, we don't need to change. What do you mean? Change the pieces that we brought in.
We don't win the cup without Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Well, we got lucky with the defense.
You don't need to go all in at the deadline, but you can't stand pat. There isn't a cup winner in the history of in the last 20 years that stood pat at the deadline. Not one. We added Tarasenko. Vegas the year before. Who did they add? Barbashev.
Colorado, Lehkonen, and what's his name?
No, Kadri was way before.
Manson.
Kadri was before. Tampa, they added David Savard. The year before, they added
Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow.
Who did they add up front, Cody? Tampa that year.
Barclay Goodrow.
There had to be someone in there.
I don't remember. I think it might have been Blake Coleman. It might have been Blake Coleman.
Coleman was there already.
Was he there for both cups?
Coleman and Goodrow were the same year. So, yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like they added someone.
But I'll say this on Yoki Haru. I think obviously I agree. He should still be in play. But is that the only in the main piece you get? No, I think Yoki Haru can and very well should be a secondary piece. I've maintained this throughout the whole deadline, even prior to the Four Nations when Tkachuk got injured, that Nate Schmidt, the goal of this deadline should be to get Nate Schmidt down to the 7th defense spot. Now, I know, Kirby, you might have called it wishful thinking, or I don't know if we're going to do that.
Thinking that.
But now with $13 million, I think that becomes a higher possibility to make Nate Schmidt the 7th defenseman. I think you take a look at Yoki Haru, and by the way, I was very
The main
impressed.
thing is you need Kulikov to drop down.
Kulikov to
Yeah.
drop down,
You need-
yes, which
You
obviously
need Kulikov to get down to 16 to 18 minutes.
And you need to do it now, guys, because you need to develop the chemistry with the new D pairing.
I agree with that, which is like, again, and I think what we were waiting for is you have to wait towards the deadline, to the day of the deadline, to accumulate cap. That's
you do,
not
but
re-
you're also waiting
that's not
for
an
Yeah, but we
It's not
can't
an
accumulate
issue.
a cap anymore because we're using the LTIR space.
exactly.
now-
So
That's why
now
they
we
waited on
make the move.
Cody and I talk about teams were making moves before, but with the cap situation that we were at, and now seeing what injuries we have, Matthew Tkachuk, now you can see it play out a little bit more. And I'd like it to play out a little sooner. I like the content for trade deadline, but as a Panther fan, I'd like to see it play out.
Like now, I think Zito has a lot more wiggle room to do something now. That's the
Yes.
difference.
And I think Yoki Haru should be on a bottom pair with Kulikov, not on the second pair with Mikko.
because here's the thing, because Buffalo's out of it. They're sellers. They are legitimately sellers at this point. Like, I would do what Zito did with when he got Sam Reinhart, because originally Zito called Buffalo for Jack Eichel. That was the original whole reason for that call. But Buffalo wanted, and respectively, they wanted Anton Lundell, which at the time, can you blame them? Jack Eichel, number one center.
And Jack Eichel was damaged goods at that time.
Yeah, because he didn't have the hernia surgery, stuff like that. And then
And
they
he wanted
worked.
he was deciding between different surgery procedures.
Yeah, Buffalo didn't want him to get it for some reason. I don't remember why. But
Fusion versus non-fusion, I believe what it was.
But Buffalo didn't want him to get the surgery at all. That was the problem.
Or they want him to get the other one.
No, they didn't want him to get anything.
Okay.
I remember that pretty well. And then you worked your way down to Sam Reinhart, and you got him to a fair deal because Zito is a very good negotiator. The only trade that I think he got bent over was Sherratt. It was the only trade.
That was a high trade demand. There were 6-8 teams in on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I would agree.
that's probably about the only thing. Because Giroux, like, I don't regret that trade at all. I really don't. Because you were going for it that year. You knew the cap situations. You really gave up Owen Tippett, and he was never going to work on this team. So I have zero regrets about that deal. The Tkachuk deal is a slam dunk in hindsight, but the Uyghur is still a very good player. But the Huberdeau part was the main thing. I kind of wish we didn't give up that extra first, but at the time, Uyghur and Huberdeau were only about to be free agents, so it made sense why that first round pick was given up. And then ever since then, Tarasenko was a steal at the time then, and it's a steal now.
Agree.
And a lot of fans, Cody, though, they're talking about now with this LTR possibility and potential. Wingers' names. You just talked about all these deals. We haven't addressed the defense. Ben Sherratt brought in, out the door. Montour out the door. Uyghur out the door. Gudis out the door. When are we adding to the D? You know? And then the Ekblad situation that's hanging over our heads.
So I was actually going to bring this up. I'm not 100% sure confirmed on this exact source. I personally believe it's legit. They have called the trades and rumors well in advance to trades happening. And they have confirmed other reportings as well. But this is what they had to say here. The Florida Panthers are also highly interested in Hurricanes forward Mikko Rantanen. They're monitoring how it'll all play out in Carolina. They would love to pair Rantanen with his Finland teammate Sasha Barkov if Carolina cannot re-sign him. Florida could be all in on acquiring him in the offseason as a free agent. Panthers are a real threat to land Mikko. Getting paid and, most importantly, playing for a Stanley Cup contender are his top two priorities. That's on a quote tweet talking about Erik Karlsson.
All right, let's get that off the screen before Kirby has a conniption. They're talking about reuniting Erik Karlsson and Gustav Forsling.
And no one that didn't work at Four Nations, or am I the only one that saw that?
Well, Eric Carl scored.
USA team, I believe it was.
No, that was bad.
Oh yeah, that's how Chris Kreider scored, wasn't it?
Hey, let's go. Sold up.
Oh, he finally did say the most meaningless game of the tournament.
I don't care. I said he was going to score.
You said big moment. You said big goal, big moment.
He scored 35 seconds in.
You know what a big goal is? Overtime the other night against Canada.
He had a couple chances though. He had a couple chances.
And I would have given you your credit, but
if he
go back to post-game spaces with this Four Nations talk here.
But here's the thing. You can ask
We need to go back to that clip.
Four Nations was a big dub for me. Really big dub.
Oh, really? He's wearing the silver medal around his neck.
I called Lucas Herman being a very.
So you were part of the
second place is the first loser, Cody. Come on.
Canada has no goaltending, and we're going to lose 5-2. There's no chance to win. I'm like, it's a one game. That wasn't.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I was the one that said you guys should stick with Bennington. You guys wanted to switch.
I did not. I did not. I don't believe in Aiden Hill. I don't even know why Montembeau's there.
It's funny. Morrissey's out for the big game, and guess what? He's outplayed, and you guys.
Kirby was against Aiden Hill.
Do you believe in the guy we played tonight, Kirby?
What?
Do you believe in the guy we played tonight?
Joey Decourt. I really like that guy.
Dude, he's
really going to play for Team Canada. You were there, Caesar. He's going to go play for Team Canada or Team Switzerland. He ain't playing for America.
Even though Florida did miss a lot of the freaking net, I was beyond just pissed.
Do we want to talk about Rantanen?
Yeah.
About this particular.
Let's dive in. Let's get into our imagination bubble, shall we?
Please.
So let's say, because in my head, let's see if you guys where I'm at. In my head, if Mikko Rantanen becomes a Florida Panther, Carter Verhaeghe's no longer a Panther. That's where I'm at.
Either right now or in the offseason.
Is anyone talking about that?
And
not really, but
him,
I do.
With Carter Verhaeghe struggling this year, I could see it happening, but at the same time, he just signed his deal.
Right.
And I don't know how I feel about sending Carter Verhaeghe to the Carolina Hurricanes.
People talk about Caesar, and
literally the first night of the season, he signs that contract. Yeah. I don't know if Zito lets him go just like that easily.
And maybe Cody and Nick, you guys might not care. Great point, Caesar. Like they say, this is a family. They operate different than Vegas and Tampa. If they do something like this,
weren't they a family when Jonathan Huberdeau was on the team?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, here's what the thing.
Got nothing to say there, huh?
With him signing the deal, right?
I thought I was just gonna say I wasn't big on sticking around and something like Horse sticking around.
Yeah, what Zito would do is make sure he operates in good faith for Carter Verhaeghe, because this is something he didn't foresee. This is something bigger than what that contract is. Because here's the thing:
Verhaeghe's one of the core pieces that wanted to stay here.
I mean, I think all the core guys wanted to stay here. I just think some guys had to make a decision. Because I think Monster wanted to stay, but then again, he's not gonna. I think he'd be stupid if he left 7x7 off the table.
So here's another thing too that we also got to consider. I want to show this tweet real quick. Another thing we got to consider. I don't think Carolina trades him to their rivalry.
I'm with you, Caesar.
Unless Florida blows them out of the water with a deal that they can't.
If Rantanen is a pending UFA and says I'm not signing there, or I'm not willing to sign there,
but
then it affects the offer.
That's like us trading Sam Bennett to Tampa Bay. We're not going to do that.
No, it's
not. But here's the thing.
It's not that.
But no. We've helped Carolina in the past. We've helped them.
We retained the money on the Domi contract.
Deal. When Domi got traded to Carolina,
that was before we
brokered the deal.
Them in the playoffs.
That shouldn't
Carolina's
matter.
trying to go for the cup this year.
Yeah,
but if they're going for here's the thing: if they trade Rantanen right here, the cup dreams are gone. They're gone.
That with Brindamore and the whole Corden situation.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest.
If they have nothing left,
if they don't re-sign him, what do they have?
If they get
they're going for it this year.
Yeah,
they were going for it last year. Look how that ended up.
But here's the thing:
a better year by percentage chance to go for it.
Yeah, but because here's the thing: they're thinking the same way Colorado was thinking. We can't lose him for nothing. That's exactly where these rumors are being based about. This is why they're trying to get a deal done, and this is why the smoke is in their face.
I understand
Exactly.
that managed, but they went from Natchez to Rantanen to what? Lusto and some spare parts?
You're damn right. Let's go. Let's do it, Bill. Come
But
on.
I really don't think Florida is really. I mean, they could
For
be
Hague,
in the
not
deal,
fit
but
for
I
one.
just don't
If
see
you don't
them.
think
I don't
they're
think
interested.
Carolina's going to do that. And if they do, they got balls. I'll sit here and say it. Like, for them to trade Rantanen to Florida, and like Cody said, if they trade him, their cup run is done. They're done. 'cause
Well,
they don't have
there was
anybody.
another name in that, and Tap would make it work. It has been mentioned at the Panthers in the past. One of Kirby's favorite players, Erik Karlsson. What do you guys think? Not about the fit, but about the likelihood.
There is a likelihood. I would be stupid to say there isn't a likelihood because Zito has looked at Erik Karlsson in the
Look
past.
look at Kirby.
He's shaking.
Kyle Dubas situation makes me more.
He's just staring off. He's like, "This is ridiculous."
Rather than watching Vegas.
like,
Oh my god!
here's the thing. I would be. I would,
Kirby's fired up today.
he's not fired up. He's just
He's fired
just
up.
remiss. If Erik Karlsson puts on a Panther jersey, the only way that I think Kirby would accept it is if he was just third pair, getting paid $1 million just to quarterback the power play and play 16 minutes a night.
Do you want me to host the rest of the season on post-game show? You just want me to sit in the corner or something? I'm not going to have anything constructive to say.
Kirby, technically you are in the corner right now.
Technically, yeah.
You just turn around and sit in the damn corner.
You don't have me backed into this corner. I'd be backed into the corner or in a fetal position.
Listen. If we do trade for Erik Karlsson, I'm calling you no matter what.
I'm calling you right away.
I want to hear the
my
reaction.
This is what my co-hosts do to me. They'll laugh.
Let's go, chat. Let's
listen
hear
to
what you
Nick
guys
in the
have to say.
playoffs. Listen to Nick in the playoffs when something goes
Hey,
bad.
listen!
You won't be laughing.
If he's not playing well, you're damn right I'm not going to be fucking laughing.
I'll
My
write
gosh.
it down. Oh,
I'm going to get a call during the intermission. Him on the concourse. What the hell are we doing?
I will not take that shit.
Listen to Kirby.
I'm not going to take that shit lightly. It's just not going to happen.
No, I will be so pessimistic and so fatalistic that I'll be like, I know what's going to happen.
Are you just going to pick against the Panthers?
Could you imagine
playoff series?
Might all make some money in the spring.
You're telling me you don't have confidence in Erik Karlsson in overtime the same way you did with Brandon Money Montour?
What's overtime? We'll go back to the Mitch Marner thing. What's overtime in the playoffs? Is it 3-on-3 or 5-on-5?
5-on-5.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm so confident. What are we playing? Carolina or Tampa or something like that?
On the forecheck.
Kucherov coming down the wing. Oh yeah, we'll lock that.
Listen,
down.
the only thing I have to say is Erik Karlsson has the greatest pass I've ever seen in the playoffs.
If I interview any former Ottawa Senator player in the next month or two here, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be Erik Karlsson. It'll be one of his former teammates, but it ain't going to be.
You want to interview Mike Hoffman?
I would like that. That's not who I was indicating. I was indicating the best player on that run in Ottawa.
Who? Craig Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
But listen, you got to admit that pass to Hoffman in TD Garden, one of the best I've ever seen.
Oh, for sure. That's on the TSN plays of the year. You know, you're not going to argue that. Hoffman on the other side of it.
TSN plays of the year don't win us cups, though. Do that.
Might see some USA plays on there from this month. Hey, some good hockey.
It didn't win us a gold, did it?
Yeah,
I know what number
Olympics,
one's on the highlight of the month.
But
Connor Hellebuck on line.
But there is to dismiss it, and I don't want to dismiss it. I think there is a. So
I think there is a chance.
There's a chance. There's a real chance that this happens, and I think he's either a Pittsburgh Penguin or he's a Florida Panther. He ain't getting.
He's not going anywhere else.
No, hell no. I don't think he will. I think
I don't understand why we're helping Dubas out. What 90% retention?
Hey, listen, this is a guy Zito's wanted for years. I don't understand it. I didn't want him while he was in San Jose. This is the third, maybe the fourth different time this guy.
He is not a great power play one guy. He's just not. Maybe earlier in his career. Right now, he's not.
But Kirby, this is the third or fourth time he's been linked to us. 2 year 2022-23 when he was in the middle of that great season for San Jose. I think it's great. 100 points. You got to give him credit.
Dude, when me, Nick, and Vince were at the Chili's,
I thought when
and
dude.
it said Panthers and
Dude.
Sharks talking trade, all three of us were like, "Oh hell, it's Erik Karlsson."
And then it's like Duclair to San Jose
For Lawrence in a fourth.
This is
crisis averted. Stanley Cup winners, and Cody can underrate this all he wants, but a shooter tutor for our Mr. Bobrovsky there in practice. Last guy to leave the ice, Steven Lawrence, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
But you tried to say that because Bob didn't have his practice shooter, he's having a bad year.
In his zone.
I
got Bob there. You know how Bob's mental game is.
Adam,
he have everything right
with that.
And Steven Lawrence made Bob get right.
I guess he missed games 4 through 6 in the Cup final. I guess.
I guess so.
A little mental.
No, but there is a real chance. This is the third time he's been connected.
Zito likes guys, and we can't figure out why.
He likes Klingberg. He likes Karlsson. He likes Taylor Hall. I don't get it. These are like all like people.
And he talks about locker room guys. I don't get it.
You know what's funny?
These are guys Kirby likes. I know, but these are not.
I liked Klingberg at one time.
At one time, not anymore.
This is still the funniest thing in the world. Dallas giving Ryan Suter 4 years.
Yeah,
and that's the reason we
gave us Montour back. Like that is still something.
Well, they were looking to go Mark Stahl and Ryan Suter there. You know that's way different than going to Karlsson or Klingberg.
We were looking at Patrick Nemeth at one point.
Oh gosh.
Well, that's just the net.
It's just so bad. It's so bad. But could you imagine our defense of Erik Karlsson, Klingberg, Ekblad, and freaking who are the other two guys you just mentioned?
Freaking
Suter and Stahl.
Kirby would shoot himself and go back to being a Penguins fan like he was when he was like really young.
Yeah. Maybe go back. Maybe they'll get Mario. They'll add Mario back. Get rid of Karlsson. Like Cody, what does Aaron Ekblad have to become the second coming of Chris Pronger here if we had Erik Karlsson? Like
Aaron Ekblad may have to.
We don't need.
You guys gonna yell at Mikko a lot?
We already have Nick Lindstrom.
Aaron Ekblad may actually have to be Bobby Orr in order to make that.
I think this is the third time in the 2022-2023. Last year when he got traded to Pittsburgh, and then now again. I mean,
you know whose fault it would be though at the end of the playoffs? Bobrovsky. Bob's fault.
Right. Or Maurice's. Or
Barkov's.
We gotta get rid of Maurice and Bob.
I still think the funniest thing in the world to me is Mark Stahl originally signed here to be a 7th D, and everyone was like okay with it. Like, okay, 7th D.
And then he played top 4 the whole year. 4 minutes. The whole year and went to the Cup. He's like, I did not sign up for this.
Look. I will always respect Mark Stahl because he played top 4 minutes, played every single damn game. He may have not done it.
Well,
you know, the only two guys.
We were there for every post game.
The only two guys that didn't miss a game that year were Mark Stahl and Josh Mahura.
And Lusto. Lusto was a part of that group.
I'm talking about the defense.
There was 5 or 6. There was other forwards, but those were the
defense.
The 2D. Okay.
It may have been Reinhardt. I think Reinhardt may have been part of that.
You sure Forsling wasn't, or he missed the one game?
He missed a game or two.
He missed probably a game. But in the end here, I would laugh my behind off if I wake up one morning and I see Rantanen to Florida.
And then 20 minutes later, it's Karlsson to Florida, and Kirby's face is just like...
That makes bagel from great to just horrible. But, this is what I don't want our fans to get hopes up. And even talking to Erik Karlsson, these big-name players that we're going to bring in, I don't know if this is how it's going to transpire and play. And I like Mikko, Rantanen, and Cody. But again, and Nick, I don't know there with all the holes that we have on.
Well, it's definitely a risk, and not a risk in the sense of you're going to get a good player in Mikko Rantanen, right? But it's the allocation towards that. If you're going to get a guy, if you're going to spend that type of money and assets, I'd rather don't. I'd rather just go get Noah Dobson.
Yeah, at least you don't have to retain on that anymore.
All right, so I'd rather just go do that. Also, a lot of talk about Seth Jones.
That's the guy that I would like.
I'm not a fan of it.
I remember, Kirby, I'm with you. I remember how good he was in Columbus. And I think that he's gotten a lot of hate. His cap is high, but we wouldn't take on the full thing. I think he gets a lot of hate because of his cap.
I watched him this year. He moves well.
And I think, again, you take a look at guys with bad analytics, right?
Yeah. They come to
Brandon Montour, Gustav Forsling had terrible analytics.
Sam Bennett.
Sam Bennett had terrible analytics, right?
Well, Sam Bennett was just terrible.
Mackenzie Weegar was analytically supposed to win a Norris Trophy at one point.
Here's where I draw the line with Seth Jones. It's just
I don't think it's a bad option.
No, it's just I remember watching him in the playoffs with Columbus. I call it Weegar syndrome. When he fucks up, it's at the worst time.
But I don't know. He hasn't played on good teams.
I was gonna say
I'd rather get Connor Murphy.
What's that, Caesar?
But
I like Murphy.
Pairing him with maybe an Ekblad or
you go Mikkola here.
Or Mikkola, I think that would help him out more. And he doesn't have to be that guy.
He doesn't, and he only has to chip in on the power play kind of.
Exactly. And that's what we're missing. We're missing a guy on the power play too.
And he'll eat minutes. Like we need guys to take.
I don't think he's not as great as of a power play guy.
For the forwards that we put out there.
Yeah, I agree with Kirby.
Better than you guys. You guys were like Kirby. I didn't think it would work out this well, but it has. You know, he's able to keep pucks in and just. We don't need him as the first or second weapon, Cody, on the power play. Not even some nice third, but there'll be nights where he does step up with a big goal or something where he'll step into like a snap or a wrist shot, and he'll find that.
I would just have to pray that he goes back to Columbus for him, because that's
I'm not going to go back to where like Rowensky and
I don't even think he has to be that good.
Exactly. If
really
Forsling is what Forsling is, and Ekblad is this stalwart defensive, we don't need that from Seth Jones. There's nights where Forsling and Ekblad might be off and I get on them and I'm critical of them. That's when he'll step up. But I don't think you need him every night.
But at what point, and again, Seth Jones himself talked about these rumors saying that they're trying to talk through these and figure out he acknowledged
Ender is what I've heard.
Right. Exactly. He says he acknowledged that he knows his cap is high. He knows that it would be difficult moving the contract. He has stated publicly he wants to go to a contender. They actually just lost, I think, 4-1, or either 4 or 5-1 to Columbus tonight. But on the thing with Seth Jones, I agree with you, Kirby. I think it could be a really good option. Now, again, there would need to be salary cap retention. I'm not taking him on for what he has. I think it's $9.5 million, I believe. But I remember when he was
Carlson,
and again, I mean, he's coming into a system again. Environment systems matter. They do.
This dude is a winner and a dog.
Yes. And it's like, I personally believe if you take a look at it, that, I don't know. I don't think he's been given the best shot. He was in Nashville behind a bunch of really good defensemen. He never really got to show it. Then he was really good for a period of time in Columbus, and then he kind of fell off and went to Chicago. But Chicago, I mean, they just fell off like a cliff. They haven't been able to do anything.
I would take the word winner out of it, but hey.
But I think he can be.
Things like that.
I think he has the tools to do it. And I think if you bring him on this team, I think it could be really good.
Okay, Coach said that. Okay, now I'm jumping in. Portland Winterhawks, and when you guys weren't doing anything in the World Juniors, dominate Sweden in the final with Vinny Trocheck, Rocco Grimaldi, Seth Jones was on that team, I believe. Make my case. Winner, dog. That was one of the best gold medal games in recent era, that Sweden-USA game.
Good point there, Kirby.
20 years. So, yeah, I just think you got to put him in a situation. And we talk about this. This is why I don't like the analytic community. They shit on all these defensemen, crap on. How would you look on crappy teams? How would you look on bottom 5, bottom 6 teams as a defenseman? And Cody plays the position. That's when I do feel for.
But then you take a look at some of these other guys that just have like phenomenal analytics on both good and bad teams in sheltered and unsheltered minutes, and it just doesn't translate in anything. And they bounce around different teams.
Who are those guys?
Jesse Pujjarvi is one example.
Okay, he's had good analytics across the board.
Great analytics.
But that's like.
And the thing is, like, we all saw what happened when Talon was a GM. All analytics. It didn't end up working out.
Tom Rowe. Talon was nowhere near analytics.
Tom Rowe. Yeah, okay, thanks.
I'm about to say, Talon probably didn't even know where the hell the space bar was. Like,
Okay,
Like,
Tom Rowe.
Yeah,
So-
because
He was
Zach,
on the golf course, Cody. He's a scratch golfer.
Yeah, because here's the thing: Talon made sure this team was built on grit because that's when he brought in the Gabrants and
Oh,
that's
don't
why
get Vince running in here. What we're
That was the fall off of that team when they got rid of Gabranson and Kulikov.
I would still
and
make
brought in
that trade.
guys with Demirs and Pesek. I think that was the
I
fall
hope
off.
Cody was in that corner. That
The
he loved.
Gabranson,
I would battle Cody with that on
the
night.
Gabranson trade was still too good of a trade to pass up. I disagree with the Kulikov move. I disagreed with bringing in Demers. That one I hated.
Yeah, and I know Kirby was a huge fan of Demirs, but I just didn't work out.
I'm not bringing him on the podcast. He could stay on his podcast. I'll tell that one out.
Here's what makes me angry. He was actively rooting for the Edmonton Oilers, a team that got him a PTO instead of the team that paid him.
Cody, you're saying for the Stanley Cup. Listen to this. He went to the new Rogers place.
I don't know. It's Rogers.
Okay, Rogers, whatever. You know who he went there with when he was a free agent?
Who?
Milan Lucic. They both went there and toured Edmonton, and he chose Florida after getting the full tour there of the new rink and facility. Why don't you go play there, Demers, instead of coming to Florida and screwing everything up? That's who was in on him, us in Edmonton.
But Talon just screwed up everything else after that. Because he got rid of Riley Smith. He got rid of the one good signing the analytic people brought in, which was Jonathan Marchessault.
Going down the Talon.
Oh, don't remind me. I'm still pissed about that.
He got rid of Smith. He got rid of Marchessault. He got rid of Demers for Jamie McGinn, who was a solid bottom sixer for us, if I remember correctly.
And you're going to get mad about the McCann thing.
We got rid of McCann to add a sweetener to get rid of Bukestad to sign Bob.
And you forget we were held on to Alex Petrovic, which was the big thing there.
Yeah, we kept Petrovic.
I'm fine with Bukestad. That's
Talon saw the one goal he scored against the Islanders in that playoff series and said, "Man, we got to keep him."
Good Alberta boy, but no chance to play best on best there. That's more that's for Brady Point and McCarr there.
And then he somehow built the defense of Aaron Ekblad, Mike Matheson, Keith Yandel, Josh Brown, Anton Strawman, and Riley Stillman.
Stillman I always thought of, but just not enough. He had fight in him, but just too small.
He was
So here's a list, kind of interesting.
Oh boy.
Potential trades.
There's three names I see that I could see Florida going after. There's three.
I was going to say, out of all these players, which ones do you guys see kind of?
I'll let Nick guess the three I'm looking at here.
I think Brian Dumoulin is one.
Okay.
I think Yanni Gord is the other.
Okay.
And I think... Okay, I'm between...
I think you and Nick, you and I talked about Jimmy Vesey last night, right?
GC, that was more just a hypothetical. I wouldn't get that personal selection. By the way, Cody, I think... Did I already say Yanni Gord?
Yeah, you said Yanni Gord.
Okay, I also think you're thinking... Lindgren, but it might be Jake Evans, I think.
Boy, you went 1 for 3.
Oh my gosh. Did I get freaking Dumoulin right?
Gord was the only correct one.
Okay. I've seen Dumoulin to the Panthers rumors in the past, like in January.
Look, the three names I was looking at was Connor Murphy, Yanni Gord, Ryan Donato.
I like
that. I want Donato.
You forgot Alex Tuck, but I don't know how realistic that is. But if you're talking LTR,
Buffalo really likes Tuck. I think it would take a lot. Bjork Strand is just I'll go through each name. Rantanen. Does that say Vegas?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is.
I don't really know what they would give up.
What? Nelson and Palmieri. If the Islanders extend those two, I think they need to fire Lamoriello the minute the ink dries.
But this is something that the Islanders are known to do.
Yeah, but it's just that's why they're bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Palmieri, I'll just go through each one. Rantanen, in our fever dream. Nelson, no. Center depth's not a problem. Palmieri, don't see it. I could see.
Is Paul Mary going to retire at the end of this year? Just as a side note.
Oh no, let's check see how old he is.
It depends on which team he goes to too.
Palmieri's only 34, so I'm gonna say no. I think he's gonna do what his buddy Parise did
Mm.
and try to go for a cup. Provorov is a guy I think the Panthers could go after.
That's a name we talked about on the Cats and Rats podcast this year.
Dylan Cousins, no. Center depth, not a problem. Trent Frederick, I could see that in the offseason.
That's one of Nick's guys that he's talking
Yes,
all year.
I like him, and I like Ryan Donato.
I like Donato. Every time I watch Donato play, he does exceptional. So like
Donato's
really intriguing to me.
Oliver Bjorkstrand is a typical Zito player.
Isn't that a player you've liked in the past, Cody, in our post-game shows and over the last few
I
weeks?
haven't liked him, but
We has experience with him in Columbus.
But
so
I haven't. He's not like one of my guys, but I always like kind of like the archetype of player he is. Good at everything.
Okay.
Not really going to get in much trouble, but if
so the archetype of the player, but not necessarily the player.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I just think he's mid. Like I think if you were gonna name a mid as an NHL player, I think you're gonna get Oliver Bjorkstrand. But he was good in Columbus though. But Jake Evans is one I could see Florida getting.
That's everyone's bringing up in our co-host Tuna. He's brought him up too. There's a lot of bidders in on Evans. Like a lot.
Well, apparently a second is what
especially in division.
Like if Donato's cheaper than Evans, I'm not even looking at Evans.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah.
Like if you're looking at those.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Evans, I think he's a fine player, but based off the value, it's number 1 Donato, number 2 for me Luke Cunnin, number 3 Jake Evans. I'm not giving up a second.
I think Donato can play further up the lineup, and Evans has spent a lot of his career. If I'm mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong here, Cody, playing 4th line in Montreal.
Yeah, I mean,
not roster.
But Evans is like a guy you could put anywhere in the lineup. You put him higher if he's hot, but if he's lower,
a lot if he's down our 4th line, our fans are like, "Why do we?"
Ryan Lindgren, I don't see it because if a lot of our fan base is against Aaron Ekblad, I don't see why they would like Ryan Lindgren.
I agree.
Alex Tuck, I think Buffalo likes him too much. I think they're going to try and resign him.
Be too high, so
Riley Smith, the fan base will revolt. Gustav Nyquist is an interesting one because he had a 70-point year last year, and then Nashville signed every guy under the sun. And
is that a Zito guy?
I'm not sure.
Are we going to get another Gustav, Kirby?
Another Gustav.
Yanni Gord is a typical Zito guy, wins face-offs, gritty, defense first, bottom 6 center.
That's a name we were on.
Connor Murphy, I think he's just he's a higher floor Mikkola.
I like it though.
Yeah. Ryan Donato, damn good bottom 6er.
Where would Donato fit?
Donato, I think he'd be 3rd line. I think he's just another He's Boquist with like a higher floor Boquist.
Okay.
Jimmy VC, I would be so upset if all these names would be VC.
And I think it all depends on what happens with
the guy below him fits the Panthers to a T, and that's Brandon Tanev.
I like Brandon Tanev.
If we could, I don't know what the likelihood of that of him.
If you're talking about a guy who would thrive in Florida system,
like he'll get in scrums.
Oh my goodness!
And he's like a blur out there at times.
I think that would
be
a
little
really
out of control. Which
he's what every Panther fan thinks Ryan Lomberg was. Like
bigger, more,
and especially with if Matthew Tkachuk does miss some time, we do need that grit on the ice. So that would be a good piece to have.
I think that could be a really nice option. I think he's got 1 year left.
Brandon Tanev can skate. Yeah. I'd say like complete opposite of those brothers.
And he could he's going to be phenomenal on that forecheck.
Yes. He'll take some penalties on it.
Dumoulin, Savard, basically the same archetype.
But that's going to get the crowd going. Like in the playoff game 1, like Brandon Tanev first shift in the playoffs.
I would smart.
Bearing a guy through the boards. I mean, come on. I think that could really get the bench going.
If we have home ice. But
like that picture of him like with his eyes wide open and stuff like that.
That's
the type of energy we need. That's like another Nick. I think he's more high energy on the ice than Nick Cousins, but
Nick Cousins was never high energy.
Form above Nick Cousins, and I know some of the fan base doesn't even acknowledge Nick Cousins or like him. But I think Brandon Tanev has the capability of playing above Nick Cousins.
I agree. Now I don't think he'll play on a second line with Benedict Tkachuk at any point, but you never know.
Never know.
Holy hell, the Pens. Oh, we would just have our whole line in the penalty box. Then you have Dumoulin and Savard, who are basically the same guy at this point. Big,
I would not be shocked if we got Brian Dumoulin.
big right shot defenseman, veteran, both cup winners. And then Jamie Alexiak, a guy Kirby has liked in the past.
Yeah, I don't know how good of a year he's.
Did he play tonight?
He's having a really bad year, but I mean,
Because I'm not gonna lie, every time I did see a clip, it was just like we were always when we had a chance, it was always Montour on the ice. So I didn't know.
Oh, here goes Cody. Yeah, your boy Etu beat him to the front of the net there, but we also had that with our very own Gustav Forsling. And
Caesar, is there any other names on the list as we go further down?
That's the last one.
Supremacy.
Okay. I'm going to take a look here at something real quick.
Well, this is kind of like a prelude to our trade deadline coverage.
Well, man, I got to get as much as the trade deadline in because I won't be here for that.
Yeah, Caesar, for these appearances by Cody, he's just going to be talking so much trade deadline. You're like, Cody, he's not going to be here.
This is like my favorite, like right after Christmas. This is my favorite time of the year.
I like July 1st too.
Okay, July 1st, fine, but we're usually not really doing much on July 1st.
But July 1st, these next 2 years are going to be so interesting for Florida.
Oh,
Nick,
yeah.
what's July 1st, Nick?
Free agency, but we're not usually doing much.
What else is July 1st? Come on now.
Canada Day, you moron.
Canada Day. Gold, baby.
I don't care. I do not care.
Hey, Kirby.
Do not care. It's irrelevant.
Kirby, just remember, you have 0 SEC championships.
Damn right,
It's called Independence Day. We learn about others.
Kirby, you think, first of all, enjoy your Canadian Thanksgiving, which is on another separate week. It's on a random Monday, by the way.
October.
So, October, okay.
Okay.
Listen, I don't know, and I don't care about. I'm not going to say it. Congratulations on your 4 nations.
Look, Kirby,
don't call it an in-season tournament.
Rodriguez made an effort to get out of that blue
What is
paint.
it, the in-season tournament?
Where his positioning is. Will that prevent the cord to come across? What we mentioned, Rodriguez made an effort to get
we can
out
see
of
it.
that blue paint. And number 2, where
I didn't put anything up yet.
You're playing a video in the background. We can hear it.
Yeah, my bad, guys. My bad. Thanks.
This is.
I don't know, but like I'm excited for all trade deadline because here's the thing: I'm not going to be on my phone that day, so I'm not going to have any idea.
That's all I'm going to be on.
Cody, you're not taking peeks at it.
For what I'm doing, no, my phone will be on.
And if you don't, by the way, speaking of it, if you don't have any plans, Friday, March 7th, join us here live. We're going to be providing trade deadline live coverage and analysis. So
it's going to
be here for that. We'll be joined by joined by Vincent Shipe and Nick Fairbanks. So
it's funny. Vincent Shipe, new head coach of the University of Miami club hockey team, who got pumped 8-1.
All right.
Hold up, Cody.
Go Knowles, baby.
I'll bring Vince up on Spaces. He wasn't at the post game here today. I need congratulations on Team Canada. If he wants to get into some of his coaching,
what he would have done differently, maybe.
Bringing it
for Vince, but. I'm just happy that that tournament was such a huge success for the NHL, and like everyone was talking down on the NBA.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I saw that coming from a mile away.
Like you had PK Subban on first take giving out rants.
Yep.
And the best part was he wasn't wrong in anything that he said.
And we'll be showing a little bit of video on that before we go later on. Because he makes some great points on there. And, for the NBA not to even come back at him, because there's nothing they could come back to.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing he can't come back because he didn't lie.
Too as a Canadian hockey fan.
Like, because here's the thing, because I think out of the 4 of us, I follow the NBA the closest.
Yeah, but
I don't follow it at all.
Coach up here, I'll talk to these guys that this product sucks.
It sucks. Like as Nick said, like a couple like after
a Canadian is running the NBA right now.
Or he yelled at me.
Knowledge. A Canadian's running the league.
What about Lex for trade? I think Lex will be available. I'm not sure.
she'll be in the chat. So
you know how the NBA is going down because you don't have any American stars to look forward to in the next wave.
Well,
Canadian and European run.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how accurate it is what he said, but the guy that just won the NBA dunk competition, McClung, apparently he's plays in the G League.
Yeah, he plays in the G League for the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't that just tells me really all I need to know. Right?
Listen, the only thing you have to know, diehard. I know you don't follow the NBA. The only thing you have to know is the Boston Celtics are the best franchise, the reigning NBA champions.
Cody's got rings, not gold medals. But
so hold on, Cody. What do you think of the Miami Heat fans that said they were going to get a ring with Jimmy Butler?
I never said that. I'm a Heat fan.
Look, this is the Heat right here. I have it.
Cody, don't make me come through the screen over there.
So the Heat are an FSU trash can.
Will be out for 2 weeks, like the rest of your team is. Trash cans. Let's go. Seth.
Right now, they are trash. They are trash. I'm not gonna lie.
You can't lie. It's the truth.
I know. I'm calling it a spade. It's a spade. So we are trash.
Like say it with me now, everybody. Miami Heat right here.
We don't want to turn Cody to a baseball season.
This all right.
Well, I was gonna say, you want to talk baseball, Cody?
Hold up. Here are the Marlins right here.
Baseball?
Oh look, Sandy Alcantara. Oh wait, he got traded.
Speaking of baseball, Kirby, you're a Mariners fan, right?
Yeah, that's Caesar's team. That's a ring.
Come on, you're a Seminole too, right?
Yes, a Mariners fan.
You saw that chant from us.
A Mariners fan growing up.
Rough go of it, huh?
Anyways, let's pay some bills here, and then we'll get to some other stuff when we come back.
Panthers fever is here. Are you geared up? Caneswear in Davie is the place for all your Florida Panthers needs. They have the latest gear for our favorite NHL team. Jerseys, polos, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Caneswear has you covered. Stop by their store in Davie or at pantherswear.com. Again, that's pantherswear, WEAR.com for all your Panthers gear.
Wonder if Ronald Acuna could find a new ACL at Caneswear.
Excuse me?
What? There's too many shots.
Wait. When are you guys going to trade out contract?
Listen, don't make me call Jose Urania.
All right. I guess we're going to talk about the goalie interference here.
Okay, I will say this. This was goaltender interference until Erod did not try to get out the crease.
Like right there, he had an opportunity to get away.
He needs to spin out.
Now he does. Like if he's trying to spin out and Mahura still doesn't let him go. No, it doesn't matter how much contact he has with the goalie. He can't. Then it's still no goaltender interference because the defenseman is caused initiating the contact with the forward. But in this situation, he's not trying to get out the way. He's still staying in the crease. This is kind of like the Colin White goaltender interference against Carolina a couple years ago in the playoffs, the Ryan Lomberg one, where he didn't try to get out the way, but he was kind of pushed in.
Who pushed him in? Do you remember?
Was it Chatfield?
Okay.
Or was it Kotkaniemi?
I don't know. All I know is that if that would have stood, we would have saved ourselves a lot of anxiety that night. So
there was
Cody doesn't agree with me on this one, but Nick, look at the stick there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things they're looking at. If you look
saw that on my first.
If you look at the other angle, the one that's directed at center ice, right in the slot, you'll see.
And I know we're seeing it from overhead here, guys, but the refs are seeing it from ice level and better than probably the cameras are.
But here's the thing: they cut out the part where when the puck comes in on net. They cut out that part right here. If Rodriguez if he spins out and then he falls,
right there.
then if he spins out right there. Hold on, wait a second here. I'm going to tell you right now. If he spins out, he's in the crease. If he spins out right there, he's fine, I believe. Yeah. But he stays in the crease. He makes no effort. He knows he's in the crease, and his stick makes contact with the core.
Yeah, or right there. Right there, you can kind of see the stick touch the goaltender.
Yeah, and it's interlocked almost, and you can't completely see it from there.
But here's where I disagree here. Go back, play it. Shoved in right here. And
I don't doubt that. Yeah.
Look, no, keep playing. Just keep playing. I'm just showing you the stick angle. His stick does not make any weird or unnatural motions. So
It's
whatever the stick
blocker
is
and
doing,
stick.
but here's the thing: Mahara is initiating the stick into Decord.
Yeah.
That's where I disagree. The only thing is he doesn't try to get out of the
Mahara's
crease.
stick is there first,
I think.
Then Erod's.
Again, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's borderline. I think it could have gone either way. I'm not going to blow a gasket.
Oh, look
over
who's
it.
in the chat.
Oh, hold on. Oh, what's up, Vince?
What's up, Vincey boy?
But yeah, I think the
By the way, Kirby, it was
could've gone either
Jack Drury.
Oh, Cody. Okay, yes.
I looked.
Coming back to,
I looked it up on.
I was like,
YouTube real
Caulking.
quick.
I thought at first when you said chat,
It was Drury.
Okay. Yeah.
former Carolina Hurricane currently.
Yeah,
That's
now
when the fourth line was that the fourth line battle out there, Cody, in that
it
overtime.
may have been.
Yeah. We had some of remember when Lomberg was flying, Cody, everyone was tired, and that fourth line. Put the fourth line out there. And I've given credit to them. And then Cody says to me on the post game, Kirby, he's barely played tonight. I'm like, yeah, but he's flying out there. It looks like he's playing against AHLers because everyone was awesome.
Kirby, we didn't want that fourth line out there 2 years ago.
Actually,
right?
it may have been the third line
line.
because it may have been the third line because Martinook was out there. So
it might have been what you said, the third line?
The third line. It could have
I'm
been.
not gonna lie, I held my breath every time Colin White was out there.
And it was at 17:27 of the overtime. And the game didn't end until about 57 seconds left in fourth overtime.
We did our post game that night, 45 minutes. The votes were by Panther fans, 54% not to do it.
I just remember people being like, I don't care who wins this game anymore. I'm like, it's the Eastern Conference
People didn't even want to talk.
And you're telling me you don't care about who wins this game?
I said, Cody, whoever wins that game is winning the series. And if you guys want to wish bed, then wish this series to be over then, because we ain't winning it.
Colin White had a week where he was good. He like the first week Colin White was a Panther.
Against Boston.
Remember Buffalo where he had the one-timer and that thing went bar down?
Remember the Calgary game?
And we were like, oh shit, Zeno found another one.
And then he just fell off a cliff. Like, and I don't know if anybody remembers in game.
Colin White hype job by the media was really good.
I don't know if you remember.
It was horrible.
If you remember game 2. He had I think he had like a mini breakaway all by himself, backhand, forehand through the crease, Colin White. And then we eventually won in overtime. But
though, from what I
agree with. So I tried to go to bed actually that night. I was like, that's it. End of this game. I'm going to bed. I went to bed. I kept looking at my phone every 5 seconds. Like, fuck it, I'm going to turn the game on.
Trying to go to bed. Me and Cody were talking every overtime intermission, right, Cody?
Well, it was 4 overtimes. And then I'm like, at the end of this period, I'm going to bed. All right?
I try to talk to you.
You know, it's because here's the thing. It was the only thing keeping me Kirby away because the second and third overtime were some of the worst hockey I had ever seen.
At that point, it's like, dude,
life.
they were like holding each other. They weren't calling anything. I'm surprised the refs didn't just get bring it out.
Carolina pissed me off so bad because they're off. Like they had 65 shots that game, but the shots were such bad quality because here's what they do: they dump in D to D, shot on net. Oh, no one gets the rebound, goes the other way. At least Florida was trying to get their forwards involved.
Yeah, Florida was pushing.
Carolina it was just D to D shot. D to D.
But don't you like that by what we're doing defensively and how we're trying to push?
But that's how Carolina wants to play for some unknown reason.
Yeah, we didn't break. Yeah. We didn't break. We stayed patient and stayed to our game. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, because our best players were our best players because that was the series Barkov woke up.
That's how Barkov was playing is why I enjoyed that series from pretty much.
And Bobrovsky was just otherworldly.
I love my goalies. That was unreal. Like, I don't know. I just enjoyed it, with the individual performances, as you're saying. And then you get Chuck heroics.
I'm gonna do this should be a final boss. Name every Carolina name every goal scorer from that series.
I almost say Carolina Panthers. They're what?
Because I can name every goal scorer from that series.
We already talked some poverty teams here today.
We talked about the Mariners a couple minutes ago.
Nick, go back and watch history of baseball. You'll see.
What?
I'm good.
What greatest regular season ever to be first round exit? Man, you guys and the Bruins have so much alike. But that's like the funny thing. And Kirby, Lex is the one who can't believe the most. Like I can name you each game besides the Vegas blowouts, like the goal scorers from each game, from each of the last 2 runs, I can name you it. If they weren't blowouts.
Tell me every goal scorer from Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final last year.
That's right, Tuna. Wasn't that a Florida newscast station?
Yes,
I just remember
Florida Panthers. They got to a Super Bowl before they got to a Stanley Cup in my life.
Florida
Panthers got to a Super Bowl before the Dallas Cowboys. Can you believe that? Before I've seen the Dallas Cowboys.
Nick is on his hands and knees just.
Please, Schottenheimer. If you're listening, Schottenheimer, please.
I still think the funniest thing in the world is when the Eagles were blowing out like the Commanders, like after that Saquon run, he called me and he was just tweaking.
I'm like, I can't do it again. I couldn't do it again, and here we are. We're gonna have to do it again because we don't have a freaking choice.
What Giannis says, he says, "Hey,
something with Giannis."
Mate.
I heard Giannis.
But anyway, to get back to
one more thing
the just one trade deadline talk, I've been just scrolling on Twitter here. Seems to be some funny tweets going around about Erik Karlsson. So, Kirby, you might be able to get yourself an EK.
People that want Erik Karlsson are Panther fans. You're not serious. You're not serious about winning. You're just not serious.
Well, I really don't know who we can get. Like, I'm
not trying to judge your character or person or whatever. I'm just not going to interact with you as a hockey fan.
I think Erik Karlsson, I don't think Provorov's an option anymore.
Why?
Columbus is making the playoffs.
Oh, that situation there. Okay.
Yeah.
What's his contract status and everything like that? Because that's coming into play more now, Nick.
What's
contending
around? I can look at the standings right now, but I believe Columbus is in a playoff spot.
Yeah,
no,
especially with the win.
They're tied for one.
But it's this close to the deadline. I mean, unless they fall again, Kirby, you talked.
We don't know if they're going to be big buyers though. Me and Caesar.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I try and give the Rangers a little credit here. Guess what? I get pumped 8-2 by Buffalo.
I called you guys out on that one earlier.
What is it over? It's not over yet.
It's not over.
It's not over. No, but I just don't see the Rangers.
Who else got pumped tonight? Didn't Pittsburgh get pumped?
Yeah, Pittsburgh got pumped.
Pittsburgh. Boston lost in overtime to Anaheim. 3-2.
So they got a point, but yeah, okay.
Wait, who scored the OT winner? I just
Kirby. Vin says, "Can we not get Erik Karlsson? He'd rather reacquire Ben Sherratt."
I am with you. If that's our option,
so you want to reacquire Ben Sherratt?
I never hated Ben Sherratt like other people, but can I pick Dorsey?
I think you'd hate him now.
Ben Sherratt did exactly what he was advertised to do. The problem was the coaching staff put him on the wrong pair with the wrong guy.
And like banged up with his tailbone, the leg.
I wouldn't mind seeing what he could do under Maurice.
Could you imagine a Sherratt Bikola pairing?
Tuna's right. Tuna, I love how you've been with me on Karlsson for probably a better part of 2.5 years now. You were the one co-host that has been there lock, stock.
Yeah, I don't know how much I love the Erik Karlsson thing. I think they're better options.
And again, yeah, well, okay. Yeah,
I think I'd rather get Seth Jones.
You played in 4 nations on a third pairing, insulated minutes.
Speaking of that, I have a rant. About that freaking Sweden defense. What in the hell is that Sweden coach doing? You're playing Rasmus Dahlin 17 minutes. You're playing Erik Karlsson, Victor Hedman, who, my gosh, look terrible, and Gustav Forsling, sometimes even Jonas Brodin. That's 4 or 5 defensemen over Rasmus Dahlin.
Dahlin, you know what he did, Nick? Gets 6 shot blocks. Take a seat on the bench.
He's making $11.5 million a year. He's arguably going to be up for Norris trophies if he
sat
out of that shit show in Buffalo.
Did he sit McDavid down in the corner in the first game?
How are you playing Dahlin 17, 18 minutes?
Tuna's guy, you're preaching to the choir.
How are you doing that? How are you playing Hedman and Forsling? And it's not a little bit more. They're playing 6-7 minutes more in these games. And I don't know. And then Finland's coach, they freaking put in Lankinen.
Oh,
I kind of like this by Vince here. You could have literally, Ollie Jokinen could have done a better job there.
At least we would have been entertained.
We can't hear you, Cody. Your mic is off. You're on
my head. But yeah, mic's on the head. But I love Jokinen's fucking speech. Step it up here, huh?
Ollie Jokinen as a head coach professionally, I never had that on my bingo card.
Since when did he get hair?
Turkey, maybe. I don't know. Why did he want to become a coach? I never saw any indication of that as a Panther. And you don't know these players inside and out, but I would have had him so low on my list. Jerome again, like Cody, I told you that made sense that he would stay in hockey. But Ole Jokinen? No, I never saw that. I say Thomas Vokoun over him.
We think Reinhardt's going to be in like management when he's done. Like because of how Zito's talked about him, how Maurice has talked about him.
Yeah. Hornquist was surprised. You never know with players, but Ole Jokinen.
Hornquist I see as a head coach. I see as a head coach.
Head coach? Okay. I love his intensity and his accountability. So that's
why I see him as a head coach.
I don't know what his systems are like or what he's, all that.
I think his systems would be similar to what won him.
You think Pavelski might end up being a coach at some point? GM?
He could do something.
I think he's more GM.
He could be in scouting departments, I think.
Yeah. But back to your point.
A lot of those guys don't like to travel.
But back to your point on Carlson, I agree with you, Kirby. I think Seth Jones, Noah Dobson, obviously those are higher end targets, but I don't know if you would classify Carlson even in that tier. But I think that it's going to be tricky. And like you mentioned a couple weeks ago, how they're going
for the replay on
how they're how some of these teams, like what was 2 years ago, they're going to be waiting till the week of the trade deadline to decide whether they're buying or selling, staying pat. Remember a couple years ago, Detroit lost or Ottawa lost, or was it Detroit lost Ottawa? I forget which one it was.
That was a back-to-back game.
It was a back-to-back game. I believe Detroit lost back-to-back games to Ottawa, which not effectively, kind of signaled that they're not really in the playoff race, like put them 5-6 points back. And that's when Yzerman decided to trade all these guys. I think he ended up trading for Tuesday
by like 1,000 because of how close these teams are right now.
Right, exactly. So I'm taking a look at the standings right here. Obviously, you have Columbus that is right there. Ottawa is also right there. But then you have a bunch of other teams that, could be, and not necessarily. Canadians is another one. Like,
don't spell it. Don't spell it. Neri, I love you. You've been great here on YouTube. Don't spell it that way. That's a disrespect to my country. Put an E on that.
Ottawa, Detroit, Columbus, Boston, heck, even New York, Rangers, and Islanders, and I guess if you want to include Montreal in there, are all within 5 points of each other, varying on games in hand for the other team. So that's 7 teams that are right around that bubble. Some are closer than others, depending on the points percentage and games in hand. But you'll take a look at teams like there's a chance Boston and the Rangers could end up selling in the next week, or the Rangers could end up.
I think Boston's going to be selling.
I think Boston very well might end up selling. They just lost to Anaheim tonight. They're playing Toronto on Tuesday, and then they have to play the Islanders, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, and then they're coming on the East Coast trip. They're going to have to play. Well, they play Carolina, Tampa Bay, Florida, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, go to Buffalo, then play at Vegas. They don't really have a great schedule ahead of them. And I think a couple weeks back on Emmett, their pregame show, these analysts said they're going to have to win like 18 of the next 25 games or something like that to really.
Teams in the race have that Western Canadian trip left or California trip where they have to, travel quite a bit. Probably.
So Boston has the California trip left.
Okay.
I don't know if the Rangers.
When is that?
do.
When did they go out?
I think they're on the California trip now.
The Rangers.
Yeah, because they just played Anaheim.
No, they were in Boston.
They were in Boston?
Boston?
Okay.
So the Bruins is after the deadline. But again,
interesting.
There has been talk about Trent Frederick. There has been talk about Johnny Rizzo.
Is Trent Frederick somebody you guys would go after if Tkachuk is out?
Well, this is a guy I thought as a potential Sam Bennett, not in the second line center sense, but in the physicality sense. The replacement there as a third line guy. In the offseason. I didn't really think it was needed. I'm going to be honest with you. I would rather.
If Sam Bennett does sign with somebody else, that's somebody you might want to go after.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. I think Yanni Gord's another guy that's been mentioned. We've talked about him here before.
Okay.
There's a couple that Donato, not exactly as physical as Sam Bennett, but this is a guy that, we'll mix it up, right? So I think, and Tuna, you said Trent Frederick, you are, I have no clue. I don't think it's Florida. There's also been other talks for Bruins. Johnny Brazo is a guy out there that has been mentioned in trade talks. Brandon Carlo has been briefly mentioned. So
what's the Rangers' next 4 games? Because I think that's really crucial, or the next 3.
So
since the trade deadline is literally
I'll go up prior to the trade deadline. I'll just list off their games before the trade deadline. They have to go to New York. They play tomorrow in Pittsburgh. Then they play again in New York against the Islanders. Then they go back home. They play Toronto and Nashville, the Islanders, and Washington. And they are currently 4 points back of the second wild card spot.
The Islanders and Washington game is a big 2 games for them. Because if they lose both those games, I think they're sellers.
More the Islanders than the
that's what like Kirby was saying, right? Like it'll come down to that week, right? And here's the thing. I don't think they're buying. If they do anything acquisition-wise, it'll be a swap.
But speaking of teams buying and selling, I have a rant myself. What in the blue hell are the Vancouver Canucks doing? You just signed Kevin Lankin into a 5-year, $4.5 million deal, where I'd be shocked if he got more than $3 million. You traded the wrong guy in JT Miller for Elias Pettersson to keep Elias Pettersson, who was by far the worst player in the entire Four Nations tournament.
They're saying he's injured now.
And like Manton Palo, the 6D for Finland wasn't this bad. Like
I had no clue who that was.
You weren't tuned in.
Yeah. Like who the hell is Mantapalo?
He was a mean bugger.
Yeah, and you take what you get for JT Miller. Filipino was a nice get, but you flip the first round pick for Marcus Pettersson. Not an impact guy on the phone because you're gonna lose Brock Besser. Marcus Pettersson, because good old JR loved to bring back some guys from Pittsburgh,
and then he signs them to a long-term deal.
But the deal wasn't a bad deal. That's not the part I'm upset with. And then now you're in limbo. You have Pettersson, who you're probably going to trade anyway, because he's lost his mojo in Vancouver for some unknown reason. I have no idea why. You have Thatcher Demko, whose knees being held together by rubber bands and super glue, and you're probably going to end up trading him because you just signed Kevin Lankin into a $5 million deal.
The great goalie through all the injuries.
And then what happens to Quinn Hughes? Then?
And if you trade both of those guys, that signals hello rebuild, and Quinn Hughes saying hello, get me the hell out of here. And I hope that's a year from now, because the Panthers will have a lot of cap space by then and have the assets to go get Quinn Hughes.
I have a question. Do you think potentially Pettersson could find his way to Carolina? Maybe like a Rantanen and Pettersson.
If he can't cut it in Vancouver, what the hell thinks you're going to make he's going to cut it in Carolina?
I don't know. Get him out of Canada, maybe. That might be the problem.
That'd be pretty.
Shut up, Vince. Like, it's just such...
I know. I never bought the thing that Miller was the guy. I really felt like it depends on what you got for Pettersson. So I had briefly thought, I didn't say anything. I'm like, this is kind of in retrospect too. Why wouldn't they just swap like Rantanen and Pettersson and like do Pettersson on a first for Rantanen? That way Colorado gets Pettersson and Rantanen can go to Vancouver. Now, again, I don't know if Rantanen would want to sign in Vancouver. I doubt it.
I had that deal with Vancouver that I just kind of made up, where it was like Trevor Zegras, Bellwether.
Yeah, this is right.
They made the right move trading
for Pettersson. Because Anaheim wants that one-star guy, and then they have 2-3 pieces that they could have moved to Vancouver. that could have got them more than whatever they did in this JT.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I think JT Miller probably is a better fit there, and I also think you could
JT Miller in Vancouver,
and then you get the return for Pettersson.
Yeah,
but JT Miller
and you build around that.
But JT Miller has been a guy who wants to win, will do anything to win.
And this is a good
with JT Miller doesn't mean you're there.
This is a good
necessarily.
This is actually an interesting comment. He's
bringing more people.
He'd rather play Russian roulette than to take on Pettersson's contract. When that was signed about a year ago, people thought, first of all, what I thought was like, damn, Barkov's contract.
The minute he signed,
but I also thought it was a good deal.
The minute he signed that contract, he has sucked.
Yeah, but I thought it was a good deal at the time.
Everyone
wasn't before it.
But here's the thing: like people thought he could get 12 and a half.
He was struggling just before he signed it. They were worried about. He had a lot of things going on. If you go look at his numbers, I believe they said a lot of things were going on through those contract extensions. I don't know if it was a month or two, but there wasn't good hockey being played there before he signed it.
But the true fall off happened after he signed the deal.
But again,
there's a difference between playing bad hockey and having a huge ass fall off.
Well, yeah, it's been bigger now.
And
this goes back to his leg injury or something. Oh, I've seen a lot.
But it's kind of weird how the conversation has shifted so quickly. It's like, wow, Vancouver could go win a Stanley Cup. They got all these pieces. Great deal for Pettersson, which it was, considering that there was those talks of, can he go to Carolina? I remember Elliot Friedman mentioned that Carolina circled in on him around the deadline last year.
Yes.
There's talks of him getting 12 and a half, 13 million. Then he signs for 11 and a half. And people think, wow, that's a really good contract still. And now JT Miller's gone.
Was that the same contract that Nylander signed, the same amount of money?
I think it was. I think it was.
Or whatever.
I don't know. All I know
Mark wants north of that.
And here's the thing. And here was a move that I always thought I still think could happen with Pettersson. I think there's a chance that Elias Pettersson ends up in Boston. And Vancouver,
if they're buyers.
Thank you, Neri.
It's not a buying thing. It's a switch it up thing. Because I think you could trade Pettersson to Boston, and I think there's a chance you can get either one of Lindholm or Zadorov back, or you get both of them back. Because both guys were very good in Vancouver. Lindholm had found a lot of his mojo in Vancouver, especially being, I think it was the second, third line center.
Yeah.
And they really liked it. And Zadorov was playing the best hockey of his career in Vancouver.
Yeah, but I mean,
all that chemistry that they built.
But if you're Vancouver, is that really what you want? Because now what do you have up front? You have freaking Lindholm, DeBrusk, and Besser.
They didn't bring. Maybe you went to brought DeBrusk in.
But that's why they shouldn't trade a JT Miller. Because if you trade Pettersson for that, and now you're down the middle, you're freaking Miller, you're Lindholm, who's a better fit in Vancouver.
And they think DeBrusk can be an 80-90% replacement of Miller.
DeBrusk has been good for Vancouver.
More on the wing. But again,
but DeBrusk has been very good for Vancouver.
But that's what they're going to think there going forward.
DeBrusk,
tough guy maybe for them.
Yeah, DeBrusk has been, as advertised for Vancouver, has played very well for him.
Yeah.
The problem with Vancouver is they have a lot of guys who haven't lived up to their contracts and things like that. Because Philip Hronek hasn't lived up to it. Pettersson hasn't lived up to it. And now they're talking about Brock Besser being a free agent this offseason, one of the main guys in that playoff run last year.
Yeah, if you lose him, you're changing the makeup and kind of the cornerstone pieces of this.
But at that point, why don't you just go into a rebuild instead of doing like a live on the tool retool? Just go rebuild. Go get your assets.
I don't know. That's difficult when you got the Pettersson situation and then you got the Quinn Hughes.
It's difficult to rebuild when you have the second best defenseman or in some cases to people the best defenseman in the NHL.
No, I don't know how anybody can think that, but I don't know.
They're in such a bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed so rapidly. And they've been in this news cycle in the NHL for 2-3 years now, going back to the Horvat thing with Bruce Boudreau even.
Yeah, but they were starting to get it right. That was a little early and unexpected in that bubble situation there with Markstrom, Horvat, and then
you even go back to that, right?
right? But now you're like, okay, they're ready to go here. And that's why, like we talk about, winning's not linear, and making the playoffs one year to the next, there's no guarantees. And Vancouver's been the big surprise this year.
Now, it was kind of linear for us, but it's not always linear for every team in the NHL.
Well, we got to wait for the playoffs this year and how that plays out.
Well, I mean, last year, that's a term we used often, but take a look at New Jersey this year and versus last year. They made the playoffs 2 years ago, sucked last year.
I want to cover New Jersey. Not time tonight, but I want to get into Jack Hughes. And is this a guy you can win with? There's a lot of things going on.
I was going to say, let's kind of...
Boys are cutting up Jack Hughes right now this week, and rightfully so, I think.
They lost big today, right?
No. I think it's the opposite. Wait, no, they didn't lose big, but they did lose to Dallas.
They lost to Dallas.
Harvey scored? Yes, sir. Thanks, Kirby, for him on the fantasy team. Or was that Nick? I don't remember who I got him from.
You didn't get him from me.
It was probably Kirby.
Was it? Really?
You got Pietrangelo from me. How did that work out?
If I had Harley, I had a lot of Dallas Stars players. I couldn't hold them all.
He got me 1 point tonight.
Even my boy Marchment, that Tuna likes, they're coming back from the injury now.
What does New Jersey have to do to make that next step to potentially get into playoffs?
Well, I think they're in for a little
bit. They're in the playoffs now. They had to fix their goaltending.
But here's the thing.
But to win a cup,
the way Markstrom's coming back, do you think that's going to help them stay in their division?
Well, here's the thing. Does anybody think that they can beat Carolina? And if they do beat Carolina, does anybody think they can beat Washington? And then if they beat Washington, can they beat a Florida or another team?
There is a world where they can beat Carolina, but Markstrom would have to be standing on his head, and they would have to be playing very structured to do it.
Structured, they can't.
Well, I think they would be hemmed in their own zone a lot.
You can't have Dougie Hamilton mistakes. You can't have Jack Hughes mistakes. You can't have one or two softies.
I think they could beat Washington. I think Washington they could beat.
Because they can match that fire.
You could argue if they finish third in the Metro, they might have the hardest path to the Cup.
No. Washington, the playoffs, I'm so about.
I agree with you on that, but they have whooped
Cody,
I'm on the other end. I think Washington's strong.
See, at the beginning, I was like, I agreed with you, but as I've started to see them more, it's like, now again, there is questions, Logan Thompson and stuff like that. I understand.
Let me be real here. Out of the current playoff teams in the East, and I think this is a huge thing when it comes to playoff series, how many of the series do they have the best player?
Ooh, let's go through it.
With Washington, a few.
You could argue even in the wild card they might not have the best player.
Let's be real here. Florida versus Washington, they don't have the best player.
Carolina.
Toronto versus Washington, they don't have the best player. They don't have the best player either. Mikko Rantanen.
Right now, yeah. How about an Ottawa or Detroit?
Down to Ottawa with Brady Tkachuk.
Are you gonna who would you consider Washington's best player right now? Ovechkin?
No.
Or are you leaning more Dylan Strome or John Carlson?
I mean, at that point,
I'd like to see one of the defensemen, but it's a hard question actually.
But I think as an overall team, I
Parrish says or the best goalie. That's actually, and I know that Logan Thompson's been really good this year, but it's like, I mean, is that really gonna?
Because
maybe for a round.
There are just some teams that are really good in the regular season, but when it comes down to playoffs, it's just I don't see it. And it's because in each series I'm looking at, they're going to have the second or third best player.
But here's another thing on the goaltending front. Logan Thompson.
Coaching can correct some of that.
Logan Thompson's played 31 games. Charlie Lindgren's played 25. Are they going to roll with that? Are they going to roll with Logan Thompson night in and night out? And can he do that? He's never played that much.
Here's what I can't say about the rolling tandems going in the playoffs. You pick a goalie. Tandems do not work in the playoffs.
Oh, they like to show with analytics, and they like to show with.
It's the dumbest thing in the world.
They always do that, and then because it works one time in 5 years. It's like that's what
Minnesota tried.
I forget who originally said it, but it's like you can only play one goalie on the ice.
Minnesota tried that dumb shit 2 years ago versus Dallas. And Philip Gustafson had an amazing game one and won him that game in overtime. And then they go to Marc-Andre Fleury and they lose game two.
Patrick Waugh was doing musical chairs. Carolina did it because of that that 4 overtime.
Carolina did it, and I understood why they did it.
Yeah, but you're conceding a little bit there
because of the 4 overtime thing, and
we had old Bob go right back in, and people like, Kurt, you think he's going in? I'm like, he's going.
But Bob at that point was a top 10 goalie in the world.
Yeah,
and
but
Rantanen and Rantanen Anderson are like this.
If we're comparing like who's going to be the best goalie in the series, I would take Bob and Vasilevsky hands down as the 2 best goaltenders going into the playoffs for the Eastern
that are
Conference.
confirmed to be in the playoffs right now in the Eastern Conference. I'd agree. You could put Markstrom up there, but even then, it's
the gap isn't like it used to be.
But here's the thing: Igor or
Markstrom
Sorokin
hasn't proved it in the playoffs yet.
And Igor and Sorokin,
I don't know, but that was shaky last year there.
But Sorokin hasn't been good in 2 years, and like Kirby sent me his goalie list, and I told him Sorokin deserves to be lower. He hasn't been great in good 2 years, and I think Bob surpassed him. I think Bob's top 3 now, especially if you include the last 2 years. Like
their season numbers aren't always there for Bob.
Yeah, but they haven't been there for Sorokin either.
Top 3, you need to have regular season and playoffs.
Yeah, he had.
Wouldn't that be something if Igor is not like? I mean, like, I remember at a certain point last year in that series, I was like, gosh, is Igor going to steal this from us? Like,
it's funny.
Potential, but that's you're going into that. That's why I didn't want to play the Rangers. And it felt good in a situation to play Carolina because of the Igor factor. That was the main thing there for me.
Well, I wasn't that scared.
But I wasn't. I was like Carolina kind of was at our number in the regular
season. And the main thing with Washington and President's Trophy winners is the season for them usually goes so smoothly that the minute in the playoffs they run into something that's a little bit that they haven't seen all year is when they shut down. That's why there hasn't been a President's Trophy winner that has won a cup or made it to the Cup Finals in years. Because it happened to Florida because when we won the President's Trophy and we ran into Tampa and we couldn't score, which was something that was unheard of for us all year because we were putting up 9 goals, 8 goals, 7 goals, 6 goals. We were putting up goals on everybody. But the minute we ran into that unfamiliarity in the playoffs, we didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for the Rangers against us in the conference finals. They were front runners the entire year. They swept Washington, had a 3-0 lead versus Carolina. And they they could have had the 3-1 lead against us. But we win that game in overtime. And guess what? They ran into something unexpected and they folded. And with Washington, I wondered the same thing. Winnipeg is in the same boat with me. Like Winnipeg is probably the favorites to win the President's Trophy. And I think they're borderline cup contenders to me. Borderline.
I have questions with Winnipeg.
I put 4, 5, 6 teams ahead of them.
I've tried to. I'm gaining more trust with Ottawa as an underdog than I am as Winnipeg as a favorite.
The only thing holding me back with Ottawa are Ullmark's playoff woes.
That's something that Ottawa didn't have.
But Ullmark has not been great in the playoffs.
It's been there, and it hasn't got the job done.
Yeah.
Ottawa's new beginnings, if they get in, which, it's trending that way, but they have to get in.
Yeah, but I wonder.
Do you see them making a trade acquisition for a goaltender then?
No.
Ottawa?
Because they're all in on Ullmark. They re-signed him not too long ago.
They don't have much.
It's just his playoff record I'm not sure about.
I heard TSN talk about Ottawa. It's just going to be fine-tuning with depth type guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
confirmed as of yesterday.
They got a lot of cap space, so.
They do, but
no, Ottawa doesn't.
No. They only have 55, right?
Ottawa does not.
Yeah, they don't. Okay.
Because even if they did have a lot of cap space, this wasn't really the time to really use all of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's an off-season thing because here's the thing: if I
far ahead of the horse or whatever, because it can start to bite you in the butt.
Yeah, if I have a team like Ottawa right now, young and improving, and they're gonna most likely make the playoffs.
Track them
I'm gonna make a couple minor moves to try to help them along, but let me see what
kind of like what Nashville did last year with Zucker and what's it called? Who's the other guy? Beauvillier.
I don't know if I compare Nashville because
well, I know, but I'm just saying those types of moves. Those types of moves. I'm saying like buy low. Like,
I would do what Zito did the first year with us, where he had the main core, but he made two. They were kind of minor moves at the time, or they weren't major moves, but they were moves. When he brought in Brandon Montour, when he brought in Sam Bennett, like they weren't big names at the time, but he brought them in and he saw what he had with the team, and he went into the next year an improvement and then tried to improve it. That's when he got Sam Reinhart that offseason. And he tried to bring a veteran president in Jumbo Joe.
Ottawa's got a lot of established pieces.
There was also Gusev there too that one year. Remember?
Yeah, but he
up at a free agency.
But he fell out,
and he was terrible.
But he fell out of favor with Q real quick.
Ottawa would be a candidate for a trade to mix things up in the summer.
Yeah, but I would
Atherson or Shabbat.
Would only make sense to me if they miss the playoffs. To shake things up, if they make the playoffs
with all those guys, okay.
Yeah, but if they make the playoffs and lose in like 6 or 7,
I'm talking about a trade that they think would make them better, not like a lateral or like a worse move. Like
I don't know,
a hockey trade.
It'll be interesting to see. Like the team that I think is going to make a dumb move in the offseason due to panicking is going to be Detroit, because now
that the panic signals go off for them and
because it's like alarm bells going off right now, because the rebuild is still here.
And you got a team like Ottawa now passing you.
No, the rebuild's done, and the result is they're mid. This is their team. That the rebuild's done. And I've always said this, if that was my defense after 5, 6, 7 years of a rebuild, I wouldn't give the time of day to the GM. I'd say, get your ass out of here. What is this? How do you have Jeff Petrie, Ben Sherratt, and Justin Hull on the same defense? And then you have Andrew Kopp, JT Compher. Let's count it up. $5 million for Compher, $5 million for Kopp. 4.75 for Sherrod.
And
that's almost $15 million right there.
And here's the worst part. They have nothing in net.
Yeah, and then they're like, I don't know what they're doing. It's like a rotating hole.
They're not calling up Sebastian Cossa, who gave them a good 2 or 3 starts when he was up earlier in the year, and he hasn't seen the light of day since. Like they're running a 3-goalie system.
They got a van full of goalies.
Like they brought in Jack Campbell. Alex Lyon is still there. They brought in Cam Talbot. Like I think that's a team. There are teams where I think dumb moves are going to happen. Detroit, one of them. The next one could be the Rangers, but we'll see. Then the West side, honestly, I could see LA doing something stupid again. Like it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks, because I don't think I remember a time where there are so many ways all these teams could go that we still don't know definitely 2.5 weeks before the deadline who the hell is sellers and who's buying.
You can't forget about Calgary. Calgary is right on the cusp of Vancouver.
Yeah.
I think that's another team that you got to look at making a move here.
Yeah, but Calgary should just be making
big. They want to sniff around a guy like Sam Bennett.
But Calgary should be just making minor moves or mid moves, nothing too big. If they want to do something big, I think they're waiting to the off season.
That Sam Bennett type names. I don't know if they go in on a Marner or Rantanen, but a Bennett level.
I think like a Seattle or Chicago is going to be in on like Marner.
Yeah, and you got to be smart with those moves too. Like obviously, big impactful players, but you got to be smart with what your direction your team is and where your team is at. By adding a guy like that into your room. So we'll see. What do we got here, Caesar? Before we wrap up,
good stuff, guys. Good stuff. All right, so we're kind of going to go into the debate of can the NBA and the NFL duplicate what the NHL did with 4 nations and possibly the Olympics in the upcoming seasons. And PK Subban made an excellent point. I thought he made awesome points here where there is nothing like the sport of hockey. Like the players play injured. They don't play hurt. Unlike the NBA and the NFL. So let's take a look at what he says, and then we'll get your guys' intake and what you guys think. It would help if I turn the volume.
Let's say, the world take on the American players in the NBA? Kind of somewhat sort of what are you doing in the NHL? What do you think?
Well, listen, hockey's a different sport from the NBA. You can't compare the cultures because of the way the game is played. You can step on an NBA floor and go through the emotions. You can't do that in hockey. You can't. Like the culture of our sport, you have to play it with passion. You have to be willing to fight. You have to be willing to leave it on the ice. That's what fans are investing in. So for us, when we charge $1,500 for a ticket to come to fans know what they're getting. Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the world, wasn't in the lineup for this game. This was the most viewed game that we've had in years. And you see it, it's because it's not just based on the skill and talent. It's based on the pride, honor, playing for the guy next to you. I got a question for the NBA players. What the hell are you playing for? What are you playing for? It's not about the money. You make all the money. What, you're injured? Well, there's a difference between being hurt and injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? There's a difference. In hockey, we play hurt. We play injured. That is the culture of the sport. It's always been that way. So you want to talk about the business, the CBA, fans get all of that. But what do fans resonate with? They resonate with what's real. You got to fight sometimes for your country. You got to compete. You got to go out there and leave it on the ice because those people are paying the price of admission. So fans know whether our stars are on the ice or not, they're getting their money's worth. The NBA has that issue that they got to work on. You got to create a better culture for your players. It starts with the leaders. This issue, there was no issue when Jordan was around. There was no issue when Kobe was around. There's no issue when Sidney Crosby's around. There's no issue when Wayne Gretzky was around because those are true leaders. They lead by example. Sidney Crosby, Hockey Canada, those players, both Canada and U.S., it was the players that did that for the Four Nations. It's not the league. The league set it up, but the players went out there and decided and said, you know what, boys? We're all in. When is the NBA going to do that? Because, I haven't sat down and watched the NBA consistently since Kobe. Since Kobe has died, I have not sat down and watched the NBA consistently. I love basketball. Love the players. I think LeBron's great. I think KD's great. Steph Curry, love watching them. But you got to be on the court. You got to be there, and when you're there, you got to go all in. The fans got to feel that they're getting their money's worth. And right now, there's a big difference between what the NHL's doing with those events and what the NBA's doing. Four Nations works because the players are all in.
Kirby.
You got us there? Yeah.
Yep.
So you can unmute there. Yeah, you got me, Caesar.
Yep.
That's just how that's how I was raised, you can say Canada, US, that's how I was raised with my dad, and go out there, you give it your all. If we're going to go to an event, we want players to be there for what you're paying your price of admission for. This is something I felt for a long time, and you have to look at the commissioner of the league. Adam Silver lets the inmates run the asylum. I know you said something about the NFL there, Caesar. I wouldn't put the NFL into there necessarily with the hurt and injured thing. I would directly put blame and the spotlight on the NBA. And that's
at
how
least
it's been.
the NFL
I haven't watched
to
in 5, 6, 7 years, and that's a big part of why the load management.
But Cody, you watch more of the NBA. Kind of go into players not playing in games and fans going. Let's say a fan goes to a game. He's there to see his favorite player. He goes to the game, and all of a sudden, he finds out their player's not playing. How do you think that has a big effect on the NBA versus the NHL?
Not because they're sick or injured, because of load management, like Tuna just said.
Well, let me first start off here. The load management situation came about because Greg Popovich was realizing at the end of the Spurs dynasty, they were getting gassed in the end of their runs. He started load management to help a 37-year-old Tim Duncan, 36-year-old Tony Parker and like a 36-year-old Manu Ginobili, he would rest those guys because those guys are damn near 40, but they're still playing at a high level.
And Adam Silver allowed it. The inmates run this asylum. That's exactly what I mean. The commissioner had to step in at some point. He chose not to, Cody.
But no, but here's the thing. But here's what I mean by this.
I saw that happen in playoffs.
But the load management thing started because he wanted to rest his older players. And it has become something that has grown beyond it now.
They got into the Leonard thing, guys like Paul George, all this stuff. Paul George used to, and I was Pacer. He busted his ass on defense, and then he's just like, this league's not for defense anymore.
Because
no game.
when
all that started to happen,
because here's the problem with the NBA is because the biggest thing with the NBA is the players have too much power. That's the number one issue with the NBA. Players have way too much power.
Yep.
Because
and they hit it. They swept it under the carpet, and now people are pushing on this.
The players have just way too much.
He is now. People don't have disposable income to go to games like Caesar said, not see their star player there. I went to a game this year. Alexander Barkov was sick. Yeah, that sucks. But that is the common norm in the NBA. To go to a game and show up and be like, your favorite guy is not playing.
But and here's another thing.
And the betting thing didn't help it because it didn't help it.
Look at the situation that happened in Miami. Jimmy Butler, and I understand he didn't get his contract, and we can. That's a whole nother topic that we can get into on why he didn't get in, so on and so forth. But he was a player that was one of Miami's greatest players. Not as far as Wade-esque or anything like that, but he did lead us to a couple of championship games. Although we never won the finals with him. But Jimmy Butler these last couple seasons, hasn't been able to stay on the court. And just the turmoil on the team, just from on my side, just turned me off. And
But that's been happening around the league.
But
right.
No, here's
it's not everyone just notices it in their own bubble. When you see it happen, it's systematic.
It's not the Jimmy Butler.
For me, I'm saying.
I'm
not saying for
I know,
any
I know.
They want to play less games, but they don't want to take less salary.
I'm giving an example here, and this is one of the biggest things of the NBA, is I think the NBA nowadays, a lot of the guys are trying to team up with each other.
Yeah,
because
it's
one of the and Paris is an NBA watcher apparently. So
he might push it back on us, but I felt like this
because
for
here's
a long
the thing,
time, Paris. Not since PK Subban. I felt like this for a long time. I coach basketball. I've been around the game.
But from a basketball perspective, this is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my life. One of the worst decisions, or I could not fathom it. I still can't fathom it. Was Kawhi Leonard leaving the Toronto Raptors? From a basketball perspective, it was one of the dumbest moves I have ever seen in my life.
He didn't want to live in cold Toronto. He lived underground.
But here's the thing, though. He wanted to play with Paul George the year after he won a championship with that Raptors team.
His uncle wanted to go back home, and he didn't want to live in Toronto. He lived underground. He was scared of the weather. That just shows the difference of a basketball player and a hockey player. I'm not saying hockey players decide not to play in cold climates because they do, but that's a prize. And I love Kawhi Leonard, one of my favorite players.
That's one that never made sense to me. And James Harden, what he did to Philly and what he did to Brooklyn. mainly when at the end of his Houston tenure, when he wanted to get traded, he was showing up to the games out of shape, like dogging it a little bit.
He's scared of the players. You are the boss.
Everything PK said you can apply. But you really can't, though.
I don't necessarily agree there.
And I push back on Caesar about football. Football is the most physical sport in the world with hockey. I give them and they don't let Caesar. They don't let the NFL players have pain medication.
Like you could say this about the NBA.
No, NFL is still one of the biggest products out there.
Softies out there. I coach basketball.
Yeah,
I know what you have to do in the game.
The biggest
so soft.
The biggest thing with the NBA now is
here in the brain.
players don't play back-to-backs anymore.
They don't want to have that.
And
they want their money, Cody. They don't deserve it if they want to play less. If they want to play 68 games, they get paid for 6. But the owners don't want to do it either, right? Because then they're making less money. So there's that. They're in a funk. But
the players just have way too much power now. That's the problem.
Adam Silver. That's where he gave them the power. And then it got all – I saw this happen. Cody, I haven't watched the product probably 5, 6, 7 years. It started back then.
And there are some good apples in the NBA that kind of that could change the tide. Anthony Edwards being one of them. Tyrese Maxey in Philly. Those two guys, stars in pretty good basketball markets.
Is the game hurting because we've seen in hockey here with this 4 nations and the superstar and star level players for USA? This is the most down period superstar level players for American-born players in NBA, going back to the 80s.
The biggest problem, the downfall of the NBA started because they wanted to become politically correct, and people wanted to use sports as an escape from the politically correct.
Yeah, it turned into that.
And baseball players have all the power. They have the best union. But baseball players are going to show up every day. The only guy that really hasn't shown up in baseball terms is Anthony Rendon.
Yeah, for the most part, baseball players do show up every day. So what does the NBA have to do to get the market up again?
They're trying to copy the NHL. I saw it.
Well,
Nick talked about. They're trying to do penalty box and these team things like the NHL.
Well,
that's not even what.
For one,
and I kind of want to hear from Paris too in the chat. If you can kind of give us your take on what do you think the NBA has to do to change the narrative?
For one, for me, you have to quit trying to be trying to make basketball like politics. You have to take that.
Steve Kerr and Popovich and all those coaches.
You got to take that out. If it's a press conference and they're addressing it, that's fine. That's a whole different story. But when it's on the court, you just got to make it about basketball.
I don't know about you guys, but I think Kirby and I grew up in the era where we watched Michael Jordan, where the game was more physical. See, I remember the game back then, and it was.
Yes.
I would be able to stay on and watch the game, and it was more entertaining, I think, than it is now, rather than seeing all these high-scoring games.
They played for something. Michael Jordan had to go back in the gym one year because the Detroit Pistons were beating the piss out of him, and he had to go in the gym and get stronger. None of the guys do that anymore. They're on Instagram and they're going on this and doing that. Are they doing what Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon are? If I gave you a truth serum, Cody, are they doing what those guys are doing to be champions? They're not. They're not. They're simply not.
Some are because Jason Tatum's doing that.
Chuck. Okay.
Jason Tatum has he takes.
But someone has to win, right? Someone has to get.
But he's taken every ounce of criticism, and what has he done? He's gone out there on the court.
See, I agree about this. I agree somewhat on this, Parrish, but we're talking about the big players when they miss games. The big players when
yeah, it was a different mentality and culture.
For me, people like to get on LeBron about this, but LeBron's 40.
I get on him, but it's not his time to carry this league.
But when LeBron in his prime, when he was carrying the league, he was playing 82 games a year in every single playoff game. It's different now. He wasn't 27, 28 going through load management.
But this is the problem I have with fans that come into hockey and say they want to turn it to the NBA and put the spotlight on the players like Connor McDavid. If you do that, Cody, it can go that other way so far.
We can't do that.
So far gone that it turns into what the NBA is now, where they're so reliant on these superstar players that aren't there when the fans are not going to care about and they're not playing.
What big stars are missing games? Well, for instance, Zion, I would consider. He's missed a ton of games.
James Harden is a perfect example of this era. He can't hold a candle to Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby.
It's
Alexander Barkov. He's nothing.
Zion missing games and Embiid missing games. Like
Steph Curry. Okay, Steph Curry and LeBron. Okay, that carries your league. And where they're at this point, it just doesn't. Don't the ratings show it? And it's like, and again, and you guys might not like to hear this as Americans. You guys aren't going to get behind Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as a Canadian and Jokic as a Serbian or wherever he's from. You're just not going to do it.
Jokic doesn't have the personality to be
right,
to be a face.
You're not going to care, right? Like and Parrish, I'm not talking about the hardcore basketball fan. I'm talking about the casual fan and to grow the game. And all the fans that left, they're probably not coming back. Like, you know, I just stopped watching, and I haven't watched probably like 5-6 years. And it's like, that's like, and I'm not surprised to hear this, but like there needed to be someone other than PK Subban to be on this soapbox and speak on it. But like, he did it very well. And I'm not the biggest PK guy, but what he said, Caesar, was huge.
But they're mainly talking about the All-Star game here, which was the biggest thing, because the NBA has kind of like the All-Star game has become very gimmicky because they try and change it every year because here's the thing.
But aren't they talking about the ratings dropping, Cody, here?
They are, because the regular season isn't as interesting anymore. And one of the
now been a talking point seasons or maybe more, you know.
The big thing with the NBA was the super team thing that killed everything.
That was played into it, but they got through that a little bit. But they kept going down that path that you talked about and all the points that you made.
Because you had 3 or 4, 3-4 years where you knew what the ending was going to be, and it's just like I don't know. And instead of calling technicals against the player, they should just award the points.
The boys bringing up something. Baseball, they've made some aggressive changes with the pitch clock and different things. Does the NBA look at that, Caesar? I don't think they can replicate what's hockey.
I'll say this. I'm not a fan of NBA, MLB. I don't follow it. I do go to a handful of baseball games here and there in Tampa and in Miami. The pitch clock, Kirby, world of a difference. Like, makes it so much more watchable.
But that was risky for them to do
but
that.
But the NBA doesn't have that kind of problem.
No, they already have the game sped up, and
it's already like pretty sped up. Like just I don't think there's a problem with the game itself. Like the on the court thing
with the NBA's game.
I don't think there is.
I'll just say this, and this might be bad. When I went to a Heat game, this was like an NBA final game. One of the worst sports atmospheres I've ever been to. Like, it was pathetic.
Like Kirby doesn't.
It was pathetic.
Like Kirby doesn't like it because like he's an old school like basketball fan. That's why he likes college basketball, because that's why he has like all the 84-year-old coaches still there running a 2-3 zone.
They run the brand. No, they run their own systems. They all have their different systems.
Yeah, and they killed their creativity.
That's what gets talked about. But these players,
many people improve me, but LeBron did not do that. I can't why does he get most of the blame when in his prime he was playing night after night after night? But the man is 40.
Scroll down, you'll see more to that thread. He goes on to explain why. Caesar.
Like, let's see.
Scroll down. I actually sent this. Here we go.
We got
He had to run away and form super teams in order to win 3 rings. He started load management, did not start load management. He didn't play loyalty. He doesn't respect the All-Star. You want to know why? Like, here's why I think. Like, just stay there. Keep going. Cried when KD going to the Warriors running rings. You want to know why LeBron started that trend? You want to know why? Because he had unlike Michael Jordan, which is something I don't think a lot of people bring up. He had incompetent management up top. Incompetent.
But Cody, he started that whole coalition thing, and now fans look at Connor McDavid, bring in his own coach, bring in the own president stuff. That's where that starts to happen, right? And that's what the NBA did with LeBron, and it's got Coley out of hand.
Because
and everyone's upset. LeBron wasn't aware of the trade with Luka and all that. Who cares? You shouldn't be. You don't need to always be notified.
Like LeBron
is starting to push back now.
LeBron isn't 25 anymore. He doesn't have to have that power anymore.
But he would leak it and all that. And people like, well, with hockey, Bill, like he keeps everything inside. The NBA sure doesn't.
But LeBron, but his first 8 years in the league before he went to Miami, the Cleveland Cavaliers had some of the worst management ever. Because
I get what Parrish is saying, but let's see if the young generation is going to pay. There's a certain point where they're going to turn it off, and the league's like, well, we're not making money off of this younger generation. I don't think that's a problem in hockey. I think the cost and affordability is in hockey, but I don't think there's a problem with young generation infusion, which I think the NBA is starting to get to now. Like, are they going to just lose it all to the NFL and then parts to Major League Baseball? Like, if Major League Baseball steals some of these fans from the NBA, this is a huge win. And any type of small percentile from hockey because of this best on best.
Also, most NBA players don't make it a decade in the league like other sports. But that's also another issue.
Well, yeah, in the NFL, there's a short lifespan there.
But I will say this, though. The NBA does have the worst media coverage.
I would agree that.
Out of all four major sports. The worst.
The media coverage, it started with Kobe and Shaq, with them having their own guy. Jim Gray was one of those things and stuff like that. But this whole generation took it to a whole other level where, like, you'll have a guy on, what's some of the names, the one that works for the Lakers there, Cody, the one that's on ESPN. They're just like yes men and yes women. They don't really like, they like protecting the players and different things like that when they're coming on covering the league. It's like you say, Cody, they don't work for those teams, but it's like they act like they do as national broadcasters.
Let me just get this straight.
Guys.
McDavid's only going to touch Gretzky's Oiler records. He ain't touching any other record.
Glad we're back to hockey now. My gosh.
Like,
falling asleep over here.
You were falling asleep even though we were talking about hockey. Freaking over here dreaming about him in his bed with the fan on.
Well, my fan's
I think more of that should have happened to kind of wrap. More of that should have happened with PK a lot earlier and from other voices, and you see it on the big stage.
But the thing is,
it's happened on mainstream, like that, but that's.
But here's the thing: you talk about Paris talks about the younger generation. Well, you had Draymond before the All-Star game trashed in the league. Number one, Draymond Green is one of the worst parts about the NBA. Because this is the same guy who punched his own teammate, really effectively ruining his team's, slamming his team's championship window shut over himself. As I really think he's an idiot, but it's just the NHL's biggest issue for a number of years was connecting to the younger generation because they couldn't market anything.
Yeah, the marketing team.
Like, it wasn't too long ago that people were trashing the NHL for the day that they had like every team playing
on rotating networks, revolving networks. People don't even know where to find the games on outdoor.
And it was on a random Tuesday.
Yeah. That's what the NBA was like in the 80s before Bird and Johnson. They said, you couldn't find the games on tape delay. So that's where the NHL's coming out of.
And
doing a better job of that now. Now Gary Bettman isn't getting trashed as much as the worst commissioner right now.
I think he's probably the third worst.
Adam Silver at one time was at the top. He's like,
who's the top now? Goodell. Goodell's got to be number one.
Top.
Yeah, and then
the
best. I think the worst is Manfred.
Yeah, I think it goes Goodell, Silver, Bettman.
Manfred's got a lot of good appeal with all the.
Manfred fucked up the Astros situation.
Yeah, that's when he fucked that up. Yeah,
but bringing fans back and these new rule and
the pitch clock, and I think they're trying to strike zone. The rule where the batters can during the
they could challenge balls and strikes at the plate.
Exactly.
They tried the robo umps, but they need to keep the human umps, and they could just challenge it. But to me, Manfred fucked up the Astros situation. Baseball CBAs are among one of the worst in all of sports.
Yeah.
The fact that he still can't figure out baseball's biggest problem, and that's the salary cap and the salary floor situation. Because I'm with a team that can barely spend $10 million.
AKA the Dodgers.
No, you guys are a part of it too. Don't.
Not as much as Yankees, Dodgers, Boston.
But
I mean, I think our cap, what we spend is what, 89 million?
Wish we can get half of that.
Okay. But you got the Dodgers spending more than 300 million.
Well, that's always going to be the drawback.
Yeah,
like that, the haves and have-nots. which other leagues aren't facing.
Like the NFL has the
NFL,
worst.
you don't even. It's hard to distinguish an NFL with a small market.
The NFL has the worst player union.
Yes, I agree.
You know,
Like if anybody
NFL's
should get guaranteed money, it should be NFL players.
Like that's
the easiest league to turn your franchise around.
like that's the thing. Like
revenue.
the NBA and NFL are two different sides of the spectrum. The NFL, the players have too little power.
Yes.
NBA, the players have too much power.
Yes.
Because the next I think there's going to be an NBA lockout because
of this stuff.
Because the owners are going to be pissed off.
Players don't want to take less, but then they want to have less games, and the owners are like, "Well, that's less money going in our pockets for revenue."
Plus,
right?
the Luka Doncic trade being one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen in my entire life.
Well, I'm glad that trade happened. I'm aware of it because that opened up eyeballs now, and like these players are now fighting from a defensive position when they were like strong arming everything in this NBA league. Now they're coming. Now it's starting to the power's starting to shift back the other way, right? You need to have a balance within your players union and the owners. And with the league to have a healthy league, and the NBA is quickly becoming.
I think the NHL has the best kind of communication with that.
Yes, how they've been doing it with the labor unions now in the meetings.
Yeah, like
it used to be very toxic and very combative.
Yeah, that was right. That was right around 2012, 2013. That lockout.
All right, guys.
Yep.
So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We've been on here for about 2 hours, gentlemen.
Yeah, I can go to
really
bed.
appreciate you guys.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
we
thank you
appreciate
for
it.
joining
Again for hopping on, guys.
And
Parrish, it's your boy. Vince, thanks for being on here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We really appreciate you guys. We got a lot more content coming up. We'll be back again next Saturday, a week before, 6 days before the trade deadline. So
stay tuned for the trade deadline.
Stay tuned.
Trade deadline.
And we'll be we'll be live here 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Kirby's got to get up nice and early.
I'll be up and early. I'll be off that
March
day.
7th.
And once again, new podcast coming out most likely Monday morning. Got a special desk. We're gonna wrap up our Four Nations talk.
Yeah, we will. Sure.
I'm gonna drop out because
I'll be wearing something different for that.
Because I am cooked.
So we're gonna end it with this video, and we really appreciate you guys for being on. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys next week, and thanks again.
Because it's not enough. Is it fucking satisfying to be 5th place, 6th place, whatever the fucking case is? Let's take that fucking step now. Every fucking game, every shift has to fucking mean something. Time to fucking step it up. We can still do something about it. Or you want to let this slip away?
What's up, Cats and Rats fans? If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button before you head out. If you're listening to us on Apple and Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review.
And just like always, let's go Cats.